Good morning, everybody. It's time for another big NFL Live Before Lock show. There is no Sunday morning game today, so it is back to me on here for the next 45 minutes. I'm going to be building lineups with you guys, going through projections, simming out your lineup for the next 45 minutes or so, up to 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern time. And then it's going to be Loughy and Ben Raza on the deep dive for an hour and a half, followed by Eric Lindquist and Chris Spags on Live Before Lock for an hour and a half themselves. So hopefully you guys had a good night last night. That was a great night of sports. We had Act in the chat saying terrible World Series. What do you that was one of the best World Series ever. Maybe the team you didn't want to win ended up winning, but the actual games, they ruled. That was one of the best World Series that I can remember happening. The narratives, the Dodgers ruined baseball. I don't know. That looked like pretty damn good baseball to me last night. We also had a blatantly rigged fight in the MMA card last night. So lots of fun things. World Series, rigged fights. I want to bet as well on Yamamoto MVP that I posted over to Tail. So I was pretty excited about that. So as you guys come in here, do me a favor, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. I've got an offer for you guys here as well. We'll talk about this a little bit more as we go as well throughout the show. But if you guys did not see, we had a Millie Maker winner last weekend. And this is the second main slate Millie Maker winner of the season that we've had using the Stokastic tools. So to celebrate it, and this is only going to be going on during this show. After the show ends, the promo is done. So take advantage of it now. Because we had the Millie Maker winner, 30% off any NFL package with the promo code RICH. You guys could see the winning lineups here on screen. So we had CW earlier in the season won a Millie Maker. And then a BSG golfer, he won one last Sunday. So if you guys want to sign up for the tools that these guys use to win $1 million, sign up. Link is down below in the YouTube description box. And we've got links already loaded in there with all of the promo codes preloaded into it. So just click on the link of the package you want to sign up for down below in the YouTube description box. It's already going to have that promo code RICH loaded in, 30% off any NFL DFS package. That's going to come with access to the Stokastic Sims, all our data, the single lineup simulator, access to our Discord channel. So go ahead, guys, and take advantage of that promo code. It is going to be ending today at 1 p.m. Eastern time. So let's start talking about today's slate and Marquee Sports. You forget to turn your clock back at 6:08. No. I believe your time is messed up over there. But let's go ahead and start looking at some of the projections here, beginning at the quarterback position. And you guys know how we start. We go through the projections. We look at some of the top values, the ownership, all that stuff. And that'll give us a good baseline of what we want to look at when we start building lineups. So at quarterback, loaded QB position, we've got what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 quarterbacks projected for 20 plus fantasy points. Leading the way is Pat Mahomes at 25 fantasy points. And then Josh Allen at 23 fantasy points. Caleb Williams, Justin Herbert, Drake May, Matt Stafford. Those are the rest of your quarterbacks projected for at least 20 fantasy points. Ownership at the quarterback position, Pat Mahomes, 15% owned. That makes him, like the 4th or 5th most popular ownership we've seen on a quarterback for a main slate this year. Jackson Dart, 11% owned. Caleb Williams, also 11% owned. As far as points per dollar plays at the QB position, it's a Jackson Dart and Caleb Williams as the highest points per dollar plays in the Stokastic projections here. Let's see what we've got for running backs now. At the running back position, which, once again, running back pretty loaded this week. We've seen the top-end running backs just regularly put up massive games this year. I mean, not Bijan Robinson. He absolutely sucked last weekend. But we have seen many massive games from high-end running backs. Jonathan Taylor, he's got, 4 or 5 games of 3+ touchdowns so far this season. And you'll see him project for 23.2 fantasy points today. Christian McCaffrey leading the way, 26 fantasy point projection going up against the New York Giants. And I know that it's Mac Jones still a quarterback for the 49ers, but otherwise the offense is definitely starting to get a little bit healthier. And one thing that's been a massive positive impact on Christian McCaffrey, it's been the return of George Kittle, one of the best run blocking tight ends in all of football. And Christian McCaffrey, he was getting there with volume earlier on in the season, but he was not efficient at all running the football. That has completely changed now that George Kittle is back in the mix. So Christian McCaffrey, the last couple of weeks, last week, not the best rushing performance from, but the game before against the Atlanta Falcons, 24 carries for 129 yards. And overall, since we've seen the return of George Kittle to that offense, that's now 30 carries for a little bit over 150 yards, so averaging right around 5 yards per carry is Christian McCaffrey with George Kittle back. And then, of course, the passing game work that is always there from targets this year, 6, 8, 8, 9, 11, 15, 7, 10. Lots of volume in the passing game for Christian McCaffrey. So totally makes sense that you've got Christian McCaffrey projected for as many fantasy points as he is in a pretty good matchup against the Giants. Then you got Bijan Robinson once again north of 20 fantasy points. I do not think the field is going to want to go back to Bijan Robinson, which makes him kind of an interesting pivot to me off of guys like McCaffrey or Taylor. And then Jahmyr Gibbs also for north of 20 fantasy points. Ownership at the running back position. Here's where things get interesting. Kyle Monangai. There's no DeAndre Swift this weekend for the Chicago Bears. Monangai had solidified himself as the number 2 running back in the Bears backfield. And you look here, 45% projected ownership going to Monangai. He's $4,600. He's your best points per dollar play on DraftKings as well as FanDuel. It's a great match for him against the Bengals. He's going to be getting what I think is going to be a bell cow workload in the backfield for the Bears. He's just way underpriced at $4,600. Top value play on the slate. You've also got 40% ownership going to Christian McCaffrey. And then it's really spread out beyond there. You've got these 2 running backs pulling north of 40% ownership, and then nobody else more than 20% owned. Earlier in the week, Tyrone Tracy, he was projecting to be really popular. But what ends up happening, once Monangai gets into the mix at a $500 cheaper price point and projected for more fantasy points, Tyrone Tracy's ownership came down. There's also Trevion Henderson. He looks much better because Ramondre Stevenson is going to be out this weekend. So if we look at the top overall points per dollar values at the position, Monangai, Henderson, Tracy, and then Christian McCaffrey is still the 4th best points per dollar running back, even though he is $8,800. That's how well he's projecting for this slate. So that's an overview of the running back position. Now at wide receiver, we've got 3 wideouts who are projected for 20 fantasy points, which I believe is the first time that has happened the entire season. In general, it's been so much easier to get ceiling games out of the top end running backs than the top end wide receivers for this weekend. Overall for the season, but maybe a little bit different for this weekend when you've got guys like Jamar Chase projecting for 23 fantasy points, Puka Nacua projecting for 23 fantasy points against the Saints as well. Then Amon-Ra St. Brown just north of 20 fantasy points, and then Rashee Rice just under 20 fantasy points. He has reestablished himself as a number 1 wide receiver this season. Ownership at wide receiver, we've got 28% ownership to Chase, 22% ownership to Nacua, 18% ownership to Rice, and there's a really big drop-off. 13% ownership to Brian Thomas, sans Travis Hunter. You got Amon-Ra St. Brown, DK Metcalf, but really only a few popular wide receivers for this weekend slate. And then value, Olamide Zaccheaus, Juwan Jennings, Parker Washington, bigger role for him with Travis Hunter on the IR. And then, Jamar Chase, even with the expensive price point, still one of the top points per dollar wide receivers. And then Wan'Dale Robinson as well. So a wide receiver definitely isn't quite as rich as what we have at the running back position. Tight ends now. Here's what we've got for the top projected tight ends. Another really loaded tight end slate here. Tight end, there are so many good, viable fantasy tight ends this year, more so than I could ever remember in previous seasons. I mean, we've got here Tucker Kraft, Tyler Warren, Brock Bowers, all projected for 14 fantasy points. Kittle at 13. You got Gadsden at 12, Laporta at 11, Pitts at 10, Theo Johnson at 10 as well. Ownership is pretty spread out at the tight end position. We've got nobody more than 12% owned, and that's Theo Johnson. Value at the position, you'll see a Theo Johnson. I love Brock Bowers for this slate. His ownership's come up a little bit. It's at 12%. Earlier in the week, he was sitting around 5%. I think Brock Bowers is going to have a really big second half to the season as long as he's able to stay healthy. So what we saw at the start of the year, Brock Bowers, first game of the year, goes for over 100 receiving yards in only 2.5 quarters. He gets hurt midway through the third quarter. Banged up knee, has to leave the game, tries to play through the knee injury, and it just doesn't go well. Brock Bowers, he's wearing a bulky brace. The athleticism, the mobility doesn't really look there for him. But now he's healthy. I don't really care about anything that happened while he was not healthy. I think the week 1 game for Brock Bowers is so much more indicative of what we should expect from him the rest of the season than whatever happened while he was hurt wearing a knee brace. So you've got a guy here in Brock Bowers who's $5K, cheaper than he normally is. And then on top of it as well, he's lesser owned than he normally is. And it's just because of an injury that I don't think is relevant anymore. So give me Brock Bowers. I'm going to be overweight to the field to him this week and want to do a little bit of talking about him as we're going through the tight end position. Now let's start building some lineups. And I'll answer you guys' questions as we go here as well. I see we have a super chat here already. One here is from Abby. Abby wants to know, do you like Coleman Worthy as a revenge narrative? I'm never much for revenge narratives. So as far as Coleman, I don't even know what even is the narrative. I honestly don't know. Like it's not like Coleman never played for the Chiefs. Worthy never played for the Bills. Yeah, I guess I don't really know what the revenge narrative would be there. I think they both have upside. Xavier Worthy, if you want to build a contrarian lineup with Pat Mahomes, it makes sense to go to Xavier Worthy for that. But they're not like my favorite wide receivers on the slate or anything like that. Draft narrative? What's the draft narrative? The Chiefs were supposed to draft Coleman and the Bills were supposed to draft Worthy? I don't know. Not anything I'm considering for this slate. Let's start building some lineups. And at DraftKings, at QB, we've got these three popular quarterbacks, right? We've got Mahomes, Dart, and Williams all pulling north of 10% ownership, and then everybody else is pretty contrarian. Let's start with a Patrick Mahomes lineup and see how these ones end up simming out. He is the chalkiest quarterback on the slate. The options that make most sense to pair him with are Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce. And there's been a lot more rushing upside for Pat Mahomes this year. It's something that's been discussed a lot. I do think that going forward, probably a little bit less rushing from him just to make sure he stays healthy for the playoffs. But with all of that said, it makes a ton of sense to still just stack him up with some of his top pass catchers. We got the question from Abby about Xavier Worthy. I do not like Worthy because of a revenge narrative that I'm not aware of. But what I do like Worthy for, even though I don't have him in this lineup, is if you are playing Worthy in a lineup, look, Worthy is 5% owned, correct? Yeah, 4.9% owned. So if you play Worthy instead of Rashee Rice, who's 18% owned, Kelce modestly owned at 10%, you could get a lineup of Pat Mahomes, Worthy, Kelce, or Pat Mahomes, Rice, Worthy, and that is going to make Patrick Mahomes stacks much more contrarian. So that's the scenario where I think that Worthy makes some sense. For the purpose of this lineup, I'm just going to start with a more standard Mahomes stack, but want to put that guys on your radar. Put that on your guys' radar as well. All right. I don't really feel inclined to get any runbacks from the Bills. The thing that's so hard, I'll isolate this game, is it's so hard to identify who the pass catchers are that are going to be the guys for the Bills. You know, at running back, James Cook, there's a lot of good running backs this slate. James Cook, a little bit overpriced and in a tough matchup as far as the Chiefs having a good run defense. I'm not all that inclined to want to go to James Cook. And then you look at the pass catchers for the Bills. Coleman projected for 9 fantasy points. Shakir projected for 12 fantasy points. At tight end, what is Kincaid projected for? 9 fantasy points. There's just so many better options on the slate. And then you could have a game where the Bills go out and score 30 fantasy points, but it's like Josh Allen runs for a touchdown. James Cook runs for a touchdown. And then it could be anybody catches the touchdowns. The ball gets spread out so much. So I'm not all that inclined to get runbacks from the Bills. So I will forego that for the purpose of this lineup. And then at running back, let's plug in Monungai and McCaffrey. And then I'm just going to set this to a 10% randomness. We'll have the optimizer complete the lineup. We'll sim it and just see what shows up for the first lineup here. All right, so Mahomes, McCaffrey, Monungai, Rice, DK Metcalf, Parker, Washington. Washington makes sense as a, not like super contrarian, but somewhat contrarian salary saving option. He's only 7% owned. There's no Travis Hunter. That's going to lead to more routes as well as a couple more targets to Parker Washington. Then we got Kelce. We've got Trevion Henderson and the Broncos defense. I usually don't have too many takes on defenses, but the Broncos defense, they have potential to do real damage against CJ Stroud and this terrible Texans offensive line. So Broncos defense makes a good amount of sense. Let's run the sim and see how it looks. This one should come out well, I would think. Yeah, really well, actually. 151.2% sim ROI. All right. End the show. Shut down the slate. I don't know we're going to top that. That looks good. So if you guys are wondering, how does Mahomes look as chalk? Pretty damn good, according to our data. We like him as a chalk option. Let's get to some of your guys' questions now. We've got Jake Roeder here saying he's got, all right, here we go. All right, so he's going with a J.J. McCarthy lineup. Kind of interesting. I saw a bunch of people in chat bringing up J.J. McCarthy. So maybe people are trying to hop back on McCarthy. He's very cheap at $4,900. Figures to have to throw the ball a lot. But boy, did he look terrible his first stint starting before getting hurt. Trevion Henderson, Monungai. Because of the price point, I don't mind taking shots on him. I just have minimal confidence in him as a quarterback at the moment. But you never know. $4,900, maybe the Vikings get in a situation where they're down like 3 touchdowns and he just picks up some garbage time fantasy points. We see that happen all the time with cheap quarterbacks. All right. Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. So got both of them in there. Did you go with a run back? Yeah, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Then you've got Brock Bowers at tight end. I love that. And then best flex and D to finish. Yeah, I'll just press complete the lineup on the 10% randomness. And we got Trevion Henderson and the Broncos defense to finish it out. Let's see. I'm curious how this looks. This will tell us, because we've got a lot of the top plays on the slate in this lineup. So this will tell us what our data thinks of J.J. McCarthy stacks. If the lineup is positive, yep, 38.8. So not as good as Mahomes lineups, but you can see that our data doesn't hate J.J. McCarthy. There's other quarterbacks like Mahomes that are going to sim out higher, that are showing up as better stacks, but the J.J. McCarthy double stack is showing up quite fine in that sim that we ran there. The next super chat here, it is from Mike W. Can we run a double stack with Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jameson Williams? Additional, okay, Addison run back and Bowers at tight end. All right. Maybe Bowers is going to be, I mean, we're looking at a small sample size here, but I like Bowers. The first 2 lineups we had submitted both have Bowers. Maybe Bowers is going to be a little bit more popular than the 11% projected ownership, or maybe we're just looking at a very small sample size. One of those things is going to be true. All right. So let's see. Mike has got Detroit double stack. So I'm assuming, even though he didn't say it outright, reasonable to assume we've got Goff at quarterback. And then wide receivers, he wanted Addison as a run back. And then we've got Jameson Williams and Amon-Ra St. Brown. And then he wanted Bowers at tight end. So let's complete the lineup. See how all the players are looking around it. We got Monungai and Vidal. I think Vidal's getting slept on a little bit on this slate. There is so many good value options and good plays overall at the running back position. I mean, Vidal got over 20 carries in a blowout last week. You had Patterson play in the fourth quarter. Probably doesn't even end up happening that Patterson gets any touches in the fourth quarter if that game is more competitive. And now Vidal draws a great matchup against the Titans. I think as long as Amari and Hampton is out, we're going to see big workloads for Vidal, considering how he's played. Hell, even when Hampton comes back at this point, it could be a split backfield because of how well that Vidal has played. So a 12% ownership, I think Vidal is a pretty reasonable way to differentiate a lineup. Jalen Warren showing up in this as well. So let's see how the Goff double stacks work. Jameson Williams really does not project all that well for us, so that could be a little bit of an issue, but we'll see. Yeah, negative 20.1% sim ROI. I think a lot of that has to do with Jameson Williams. Let's see if we took Williams out. We'll just rerun some of this out of curiosity. What if we just do it yeah, so instead of Jameson Williams, just Goff to Amon-Ra St. Brown with Addison as the run back. Let's see how if that ends up looking better. All right, then we got McCaffrey, double tight end lineup with Kelsey, Parker, Washington showed up in it. Let's see what this does to the sim ROI. Does this make it positive? More or less the same lineup. It's very similar. We just made it a single stack and took out Jameson Williams. Will that help it? A little bit. A little bit. Overall, though, it looks like our data just doesn't really love Detroit Lions stacks for this slate. Apologies to Joey if he's watching this right now. Brandon Wagner. Brandon says that he can't get Goff to show up over the field in my 150 without a ton of boosting. Would it be best to make that play in a single entry tournament or to leave the sims alone? So funny, because we just ran the Goff lineup. Here's the issue. Our data just doesn't view Jared Goff and Lion stacks as being very good options for today. you could do whatever you want to force the Sims to give you whatever you want to play. So if you are dead set on playing Jared Goff, just keep ROI boosting to get to more of them. But what the data is trying to tell you is that our data does not think Jared Goff is a good play today. You could force him if you want, but I would advise you not to if you're reliant on our tools and trust in our data like I am, just because if you have to give like a 100% ROI boost to Jared Goff in the Sims, every lineup he's in gets a 100% ROI boost, and he's not really showing up in that many lineups, it just means lineups with him aren't simulating out all that well. So I would say, based on the lineups we just simmed and your experience in the Sims, seems like as of right now, unless something changes with projections, probably not somebody we want a lot of exposure to. Steve McGee, what about a Daniel Jones lineup? Yeah, let's build a Danny Dimes lineup. So let's go to the Colts here. We'll plug in Daniel Jones. And then who makes most sense? It doesn't have to be a double stack with Jones. Let's just go Tyler Warren at 5,500. Let's go Jalen Warren as a run back. So the absolutely nonsensical, nothing to do with it, Warren stack here, but other than, just Warren's a run back here. But Daniel Jones, I'm curious to see how some of these lineups end up simming out with him. Actually, do we want to go? Let's go DK Metcalf actually instead of Jalen Warren. Yeah, let's do that. All right, so we'll go Daniel Jones, Tyler Warren, DK Metcalf. Now let's plug in some of the other top options. Unselect this game. All right, what do we want to go to at running back? We're already pretty contrarian here. Let's go to, Danny Dimes 6% owned, Warren 11% owned, Metcalf 13% owned. So we could eat some of the chalk here. Let's plug in Monungai. Let's plug Trevion Henderson into the lineup. Let's go McCaffrey. Whoops. Put McCaffrey in the flex. All right, so I'm good with this core. Let's have the optimizer build around this. I just want to make sure that we give Daniel Jones lineups, because the idea here is, how do Daniel Jones lineups look? I want to make sure that we're surrounding him with some of the top plays on the slate to give it a better idea of how the individual Daniel Jones lineups sim out. We got Raiders defense. Zacchaeus is a value option. All right, this all looks reasonable. Let's run the sim. This should tell us how Jones lineups look. For what it's worth, I got to Daniel Jones a little bit using the contest sims and the pre-contest sims. Not a ton, but yeah, this lineup's 75% sim ROI. So Daniel Jones stacks definitely looking pretty solid based on that if you surround him with some of the chalk on the slate. And, another Daniel Jones lineup. All right, so Sean here has got Jones, Vidal. All right, this is the first time anybody's brought up Kareem Hunt. So I understand why people are going to want to go to Kareem Hunt, just because, Pacheco's out. But I do have concerns about, not necessarily will Kareem Hunt get a sizable workload. I think he will. But there's so much good value at the running back position. There's just going to be other guys that I prioritize. My concern is, what is the ceiling of Kareem Hunt? And is it high enough to outscore some of these other top value options we have at the wide receiver position? I'll get Hunt into some lineups, but that's why he's not a priority. I think a lot of people might just say, like, oh, there's no Isaiah Pacheco. Hunt has to be somebody we're jamming, but not really, just because there's so many other guys that end up looking good for the slate. All right, Parker Washington. You've got Josh Downs and Michael Pittman. I don't know that Daniel Jones double stacks are going to look good. He might be better suited for a skinny stack, which we built out before. So we'll have a decent comparison here, because the Daniel Jones skinny stack that we did had a 75% sim ROI. Oh, you got Taylor in here as well. Yeah, this might really be overkill. Or maybe not. We'll find out shortly. And then Green Bay defense. Oh, you're over the salary cap. This must be a FanDuel lineup, right? Or did I put somebody wrong in here? Washington. Okay, so Jones, Vidal, Hunt. We got that. Washington, Downs, Pittman. Okay. Yeah, I'm confused. You've got too many players in here too. Right? Am I going crazy? I mean, probably. I could just be. I feel like I am I being pranked here? Am I missing something simple here? There's too many players, and we're over the salary cap. So if I put in another player, we'd be even further over the salary cap. All right, help me out here, Sean. Sean, let me know this. DM me. Have you found a way to circumvent the salary cap playing DFS? Because this is more important information than anything we can give out on the show. If you're playing lineups that are using just like abstract amounts of salary, that's a pretty good deal you got going on. Yeah, Mike D says it's 10 players. You can only roster 9. I know we're already over the salary cap with 9. All right, Sean, I can't help you here. I did my best, but sometimes my best isn't good enough. We've got Mike H. How much Monungai is too much in 20 max? If you want to take a stand, I'm going to be playing Monungai in the majority of my lineups. I don't know what my final exposure to him is going to be. My first run of Sims, I got him in 90% of lineups. I presume I'm going to have Monungai in probably something like 3/4 of my lineups or something like that. If you had him in 15 or 16 lineups, I wouldn't take issue with that. I wouldn't have an issue with that at all. Also, more people should leave. I don't want to encourage this too much, but I found that more people should just fuck with me and leave me super chats of lineups that don't fit in the salary cap or are just really confusing. Because that was low-key hilarious. By the way, if you guys haven't done yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you haven't checked out Tails yet, you should. It's free. You can go to tails.bet. You can download the Tails app. And if you're really enjoying the experience, leave us a nice 5-star review and just write a couple of sentences. That is going to go a long way to helping us grow the app. But also, look at some of the stuff that you guys could get from Tails. I post bets here for free. Loughy post bets for free. Ben and Eric post bets for free. You guys get all kinds of free content. And I had a really nice World Series bet that won. I posted a live bet last night. Yamamoto plus 1,500 to win World Series MVP, which ended up cashing last night. So the idea was Shohei Ohtani had a really rough start. He was the favorite to win the MVP going into the game. And considering he gave up 3 runs, I just didn't think it was realistic he was going to win MVP. And then Yamamoto's pitched so well in the World Series. I figured that as long as the Dodgers won, we were going to cash a Yamamoto MVP ticket, which did end up happening. So if you guys were using Tails for free, had the app downloaded, had notifications turned on, you also would have cashed the plus 1,500 bet on Yamamoto for MVP last night. So go check out Tails if you guys are not already. All right, let's see what else we have. Super chats are pouring in today. So no FanDuel lineups yet. If you guys don't leave any super chats with FanDuel lineups, I'll go make sure that I build one before we head out here. Because I try to balance between the two, FanDuel and DraftKings. But if all the super chats are DraftKings, then my hands are kind of tied. But I will try to, for sure, make sure that we build out at least 1 or 2 FanDuel lineups here. No Chalk Donkey 69. He has got a Trevor Lawrence stack. I don't mind Trevor Lawrence stacks, especially with Travis Hunter out. We can feel pretty good that Brian Thomas is going to see a bigger target share today, which means what? If Trevor Lawrence has a big game, Brian Thomas almost certainly is going to have a pretty decent game. He also got Parker Washington as a cheap option. So Lawrence to Thomas, I'm good with that as a skinny stack. I'm good with Lawrence to Thomas and Parker Washington as well. That is a stack that I have some interest in. All right, Henderson and Christian McCaffrey. You've got Rice, Thomas, and Washington. I like this lineup. I think it's going to sim out well. I haven't gotten to the rest of it, but so far I like where we're at. And then what do you got at tight end and flex? Bowers. Almost every single lineup has Bowers in it so far. I don't know if that's because you guys are just agreeing with me saying that I like Bowers, or like I said before, maybe there is a chance that he's really way more popular than we have him projected because every single lineup is with Brock Bowers that we're building out here. And the Lions defense. All right. Let's give this one a run. Solid 63.6% sim ROI. Yeah, I think that's a good core of lineups to build. I think that's a good core. By the way, I'm looking through the chat just to see if Sean Preston left another message. I'm obsessed with this now. He left an updated version of his lineup. All right, so I'll plug in Sean's real lineup. It would have been way funnier if you just did that on purpose. All right, so his real lineup is Jones, Vidal, Hunt, Pittman. I swear, if this one also doesn't fit in the salary cap, I might just stroke out on the screen. It would be hilarious, though. Hunt, the whole thing. Hunt, Pittman, Downs. And you've got... Watch this one be more expensive than the other one. Okay, Adunzi. Gadsden, Taylor. And then, okay, yeah, it was Gadsden at tight end. I don't think this is going to sim out well, by the way. I think that it is a little bit too much exposure to the Colts. I mean, you got in here, you got Daniel Jones, Michael Pittman, Josh Downs, and Jonathan Taylor. So just full onslaught here. And yeah, you are now $3,200 over the salary cap. So you have built a lineup that uses even more salary than the other one by a significant amount. Because the last one was only $300. Well, I guess not really, because the other one had too many players. This one has too many players this one has the right amount of players, but it's 3,200 instead of 300 over. Sean, tell me how you're building these lineups. I need to know. I need to know the secret. I want to start playing lineups that are like $10,000 over the salary cap. That could be the new hack to DFS. You know who I'm playing today? Jonathan Taylor, Christian McCaffrey, Patrick Mahomes, Puka Nacua, Jamar Chase, Brock Bowers. That's my lineup. That's my secret for you guys today. All right, what's the next one? DFS Dope Strategies. Good morning. Is there any way we could do a 12 o'clock early slate for small field contests? Is there any way we could do, like, build a lineup for it? I could, here. Yeah. I haven't really prepped for the early slate, but I'll tell you what I could do here. I'll just go to the early slate and I could show you what the optimal lineup is with our data. Put it on 0% randomness. Just press complete the lineup. Here, if you are just building the optimal lineup with our data on 0% randomness, which, by the way, this is how I recommend you guys build cash games using our tools. Just lock in some of the highest owned players on the slate, set it to 0% randomness, and then just press complete the lineup. But here is the highest projected lineup just in terms of fantasy points for the early slate. Caleb Williams, Christian McCaffrey, Kyle Monangai, Jamar Chase, DK Metcalf, DJ Moore, Theo Johnson, Travion Henderson, Broncos defense. You know what's funny? Usually the lineups that are just the optimal projected lineups aren't going to sim all that well because they're usually lacking in correlation. But this actually has Caleb Williams with Monangai and DJ Moore. It's got Jamar Chase as a run back. I bet this probably sims out reasonably well. Let's give it a go. I assume that's what you're looking for, DFS Dope Strategy. Then a lineup here for the SPY from Alex Kaiser. Oh, yes, 166.1% sim ROI. All right. Our optimal lineup apparently just crushes in the sims for the early slate. All right, go back to the main slate here. Alex, DK SPY, asking a 2v2 question. CMC and Wan'Dale Robinson or Vidal and Chase. It kind of depends who else is in the lineup, but just in general for me, that's going to be Christian McCaffrey and Wan'Dale Robinson. Once again, a little bit of caveat that it could depend who those players correlate with the other guys in the lineup. But I'm also looking at it this way. CMC and Wan'Dale, they individually do correlate and both project well in our data. CMC shows up in a bunch of lineups. You're getting Wan'Dale Robinson, Christian McCaffrey playing against each other. So I'm most inclined to say the first option there. Flacco stack here. Let's do it. Joe Flacco. We've got Chase Brown, Monangai. Let's get to it. Flacco, Brown, Monangai. Would help if I press the right position. There we go. Brown, Monangai. At wide receiver, you have got here Amon-Ra St. Brown, T. Higgins. Amon-Ra St. Brown, T. Higgins. I assume this is Alex Pierce that you're trying to put in. Or, sorry, Alec Pierce. I don't think this lineup is going to sim out all that well. Pierce doesn't project well for us. You've also got Font at tight end, who also doesn't project all that well for us. McCaffrey and the Texans defense. I think we're going to get a slight negative on this one. I could be wrong, though. That's my intuition. Definitely contrarian, though. Might be a little too contrarian. You could be contrarian without, and I know you've got Monungai in the lineup, you got McCaffrey, but you don't have to have as many contrarian guys as you've got in here, Devon. Yeah, negative 28.3% sim ROI. Just a little bit too contrarian. I would say instead of going to Chase Brown, maybe try to make it a double stack with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase and take out Font and Chase Brown. Try to make it like Higgins is also only 6% owned. If you go to Flacco at 4%, Higgins at 6% with Jamar Chase, like that's going to be contrarian enough for a Bengals stack. Trey Flip Jones, free balling like my role models. Shout out Trey Flip Jones. Appreciate it. Appreciate you. Also, we got some more people here now watching. If you haven't done yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and also want to let you guys know, we had a Millie Maker winner last weekend. We have now had, oh, it still stays on screen. Let me take the comment down. Put that back up in a second, Tiffany. So, we've had 2 Millie Maker winners on main slates this year. Earlier in the year, CW279, and then last weekend, BSG Golfer, he won a Millie Maker over on DraftKings. So we've had a Millie Maker winner on FanDuel. We've had a Millie Maker winner on DraftKings. And to celebrate this, all of our NFL packages just for the next few hours. This offer is going to end at 1 p.m. Eastern time. So take advantage of this before the end of the show. Sign up right now. Links down below in the YouTube description box. The promo code RICH, it is already loaded into those links that you see down below in the YouTube description box. Whichever package you want, it is 30% off with this promo code RICH. So take advantage of it. At 1 p.m. Eastern time, when the slate locks, that is 3 hours and 10 minutes from now, the promo is going to expire. Take advantage of it now, get 30% off, and you could be the next Millie Maker winner. You could be the next CW. You could be the next BSG Golfer, and you can do it for 30% off with the promo code RICH. All right, let's get back to your guys' super chats. And we got that question from Tiffany. Tiffany has a Stafford, Adams, Gadsden, McCaffrey, Tracy. All right, so we'll plug this in, and then we'll optimize it around it. Stafford, Adams, Gadsden. Adams is a pretty interesting pivot off of Nakua for this weekend. I've done this on other slates too, where Puka's been super chalky. And it worked out really well the one game where Puka got banged up and that Adams ended up playing well. Then there was a game earlier in the year where it didn't go quite as well. But you got a 6% on Devontae Adams compared to a 22% on Puka Nakua. You're also saving some salary. I like it. And then you've also got Christian McCaffrey, Tyrone Tracy. Yeah, we haven't had any Tracy lineup show up in anybody's builds yet. I like Tracy as well today. Yeah, no Cam Scatterbo for the Giants. Tracy only $5,100. There's been better value that's opened up than Tracy since earlier in the week, but I still think that Tracy is a pretty solid looking value option. DJ Moore, Diami Brown, Broncos defense ended up showing up in this lineup. All right, let's see how this looks. I'm really not sure on this one. And let's see if there's any questions in Discord as well. JW. Oh, okay. JW is sending me he said he meant Roman Wilson. All right. Well, the lineup said Rome, not Roman. So I thought it was Roma Dunze. That would make more sense, though. Thank you for that. And then Matty Ice wanted to know about Trevor Lawrence, Brian Thomas, and PJ Washington stack. We did run one of those before. It ended up coming out pretty good. I think that's a good build. The Trevor Lawrence to Brian Thomas and PJ Washington. I think it's what do I have in my last run? I've got 10% of Trevor Lawrence at 5% ownership. So looks like I'm going to be around 2x the field on Jacksonville Jaguar stacks, which I am in favor of. Here we go. Suave on FanDuel. Would it be smart to fade Christian McCaffrey? All right, let's go and build a FanDuel lineup without McCaffrey. I mean, smart is relative, right? If you're just playing one lineup and it doesn't have McCaffrey, cool. No problem with that at all. There's a lot of good running back options. It doesn't have to have McCaffrey in it. If you're playing a bunch of lineups and you have 0% of McCaffrey, that's harder to justify. But yeah, look, if we go to running back, there's a couple things you do. You could pay up to Jonathan Taylor to be different, or you could just go with the cheaper running backs. So we've got Kyle Monangai, looks really good over on FanDuel. So does Travion Henderson. And then you could also go to Tracy in the flex. 3 really good value running back options. If all 3 of these value RBs come through, yeah, totally reasonable that a winning lineup wouldn't necessarily have Christian McCaffrey. Let's build here. Let's go to Mahomes and Rice with the 3 value running backs. We'll go Kelsey here as well. All right, so double stack. Still 7K left for these. I'm curious who comes up in the lineup for the final spots. All right, so this ended up being Mahomes, Monangai, Tracy, Puka Nacua, Rashee Rice, Brian Thomas, Travis Kelce, Travion Henderson, Broncos defense. I bet this sims out well. It is definitely viable to make good lineups without McCaffrey. I just wouldn't outright play 0% of him if you're building a bunch of lineups. Don't have to play him, though. Unless this lineup sims out negatively. No, 91.6% sim ROI. That's good. I'm happy with that. I have no issue with, you can see here, good lineups to be built without CMC. Super chat here from InScoop Experience. There's no question attached to it. Let me look. In scope. No question in chat from him either. So in Scoop Experience, thank you very much for the super chat. Apologies if you meant to ask a question or just didn't show up, but it's coming up blank in the super chat. Another one. Yisrael Dutchman. Let's see. I don't see any question attached to this one either. Oh, there it is. All right, Dutchman in chat. I see you. Dart. Okay, yeah. Dart, CMC, Monangai, Brian Thomas, Tucker, Juwan Jennings, Tyler Warren, and then Gibbs and the Falcons. All right. So let's plug this one in. Dart at QB. McCaffrey and Monangai. Interesting to me that we only got one lineup with Jonathan Taylor. I just thought more people were going to be gravitating towards him. And, you know, like I said, when we do this, it's always a small representative of the lineups that everybody's building. But I do find it interesting when there's something that I think the field is going to gravitate towards, and you guys build out your lineups, send them to me, and almost none of what I think people are going to want to play shows up in that lineups. Like, I thought Jonathan Taylor was going to be somebody who I was going to see in a handful of your guys' lineups today. And other than that Daniel Jones triple stack that was over the salary cap, there hasn't been any lineups with him. Jennings, Warren, and Gibbs. This one might not sim out well. You've got Dart with none of his pass catchers, and then a bunch of contrarian options in here as well. I think there's just not enough correlation here. But we'll see. But we will see. Uh, 20.4. All right, that's better than I thought it was going to be. Oh my gosh, Sean Preston followed up. Do we go down this route again, guys? We do have the deep dive. Turn it over to Loughy and Ben, but I mean, how do we not close out on trying to build Sean Preston's lineup that he believes now fits in the salary? I think this is how we close the show. And then if the lineup doesn't fit, I just sign off and leave if it's over the salary cap again. Super chat here from Porco Rosso. Y'all ready to feed the pig this weekend? Daddy hungry? Sure. Yeah, let's feed the pig. Why not? All right, guys. Final one here. For the last time, we're going to try. Third time's the charm. Sean believes he has a lineup that fits in the salary cap. The first two were over the cap. The first one was $300 over. The last one was $3,200 over. Does this one fit in the salary cap? I don't remember all the players. All right, he wants me to make a change. All right, I'll have to go off memory. So I could end up messing this up. You had Jones. Okay, so we know for sure Roman Wilson is in this. And I remember that you did a triple stack of the Colts. So it was Pittman, Downs, and Taylor. Pittman, Downs, Taylor. And I remember Vidal was in it. I think I can figure this out as I go. Pittman, Downs, Taylor. You had Vidal and Parker Washington. And you had Gadsden at tight end. Gadsden at tight end. Yeah. I think this was it. Parker Washington. Maybe not. Now this is too much. Now you've got like $1,000 left over. All right, whatever. It fits within the salary cap this time. Yeah, I think I remember that correctly. All right, we got a couple more questions. So, guys, I'm going to negative 78.1. All right, what an experience we had.
I'm sorry, dude. That is the greatest thing ever. That you finally get something, and it's negative 78%.
Yeah, we also left $1,100 in salary on the table. So, Sean, if I may have messed up this one, I think I have a pretty good memory. I think I remembered your lineup correctly. You left too much salary on the table. It's different than the issue we had before, but also too much exposure to the Colts. Back to the drawing board. All right, guys. So you guys see Ben and Loughy are waiting. I'm going to fill out the rest of your guys' lineups, but do me a favor. Don't leave any more super chats. I see they're coming in because I'm going to run out of time, or else Ben and Loughy are going to be sitting here for the next hour during the course of their show waiting to go on. So I'm going to fill out the rest of your guys' lineups and make sure that they look okay. And then we're going to turn it over to Ben and Loughy. So if you guys have questions for Ben and Loughy, you can leave them super chats. But for now, let's hold off on the lineups. And then for some of the questions that are coming in Discord also, I'll hang out in Discord after my portion of the show is over here, and I'll get to your guys' questions that you're asking in Discord. All right, Allen, Vidal, and Monungai. And then you have got Adunze with Trey Tucker, Josh Downs. By the way, this has been one of my most fun lineup building shows that we've done here. Like, this has been one of the quickest 45 minutes of my life. We've had some fun here building lineups that fit into the salary cap, that didn't fit into the salary cap. And we kind of touched on everything that was important as well, because you guys have a pretty good mix of lineups that you submitted. So I hope this was a good overview of all the stacks that are simming well and not as well in our data for you all. McCaffrey and the Texans defense. So I think the issue you're going to run into here in scoop experience, you don't have any stacking partner with Josh Allen or a run back. It's just a naked Josh Allen lineup. I think that's going to hurt it. So I'm going to think this is like negative 20% sim ROI. The individual players are all fine. It's just, they're just guys. There's no correlation for the lineup. It's just players you like individually. Yeah, negative 11 point sim ROI. The individual options are not bad. It's just they don't fit together in a cohesive way that's going to make it easier for you to generate upside. Junior Whopper, last two in, Chase and Tracy or Rice and Vidal. Without knowing the rest of your lineup, that is a Chase and Tracy for me. And then here's the final one from Ken to bring us home. It is another Danny Dimes stack. Danny Dimes with Travion Henderson and Monungai there. All right. Henderson, Monungai. And then who'd you stack him with? You have got, I spelled Monungai wrong, I think 15 times during the show. I don't know if anybody's picked up on it, but I keep doing M-O-N-O instead of M-O-N-A, and then I have to go back and change it. All right, Brown, Worthy, McCaffrey. I assume you mean Amon-Ra St. Brown? We'll see. If the salary doesn't fit, then I'll change out Amon-Ra St. Brown for a different Brown. Worthy, you've got Warren at tight end. DK Metcalf in the lineup as a run back. All right. Yeah, I think that's, Vidal. Yeah, so I think we got the right Brown in there because it's working in the salary cap. And then you've got the Bears defense. Here we go. Final lineup of the show, and then we're turning it over to the deep dive guys, and then final will be live before lock after them. So one more time, guys, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already. Ken, give us a profitable lineup here to close out on. Let's do it. Fuck. Negative 4.4% sim ROI. So close. So close. Let's do this. Let's see if we just take out Worthy. Let's just take out Worthy, Vidal, and the Bears defense, and let's just complete those 3 spots. Then we got Rashi Rice instead, Tracy, the Titans defense. All right. Give us a little bit better of a sim ROI. We can't close out on a negative 4.4. We've had a great show. We can't go out just limping like that. There we go. We just subbed out 3 of the players, and we got much better results. Guys, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget, promo code RICH, 30% off. The next 3 hours of football coverage is going to be right here. Do not go anywhere. Deep dive. Ben Rasa, Loughy. It is next. After them, Spags, as well as Eric Lindquist. Guys, stick around. We have got tons of football coverage. Any kind of late breaking news, ownership, projection updates, it is all going to be covered on this channel. So don't go anywhere, and good luck with your lineups today.
Hey, good morning. Welcome to the Stokastic. And that's how you do a changeover.
Not bad.
Is that 10 seconds? Maybe 2? 15? Ballpark? Good morning. Welcome to the Stokastic.com NFL Deeper Dive. Week 9. We're at the midway point of the season already. Can you believe it?
Not really. Yeah, November. Turn the clocks. I don't know. We turned them some direction. All hell's breaking loose. So we're almost to Thanksgiving.
I'm a team 0 daylight savings guy.
Yeah.
I don't like daylight savings. I would rather wake up and it's light out. You know, in the summer, if it gets dark at 8:15, great. It doesn't need to be 9:15. You know? Are you a daylight savings guy? I'm all about getting up and the sun is coming up.
Yep.
Here's the downside. Any of you guys have young kids? They don't set alarm clocks. So while you think you're getting an extra hour of sleep, when they get up at 5:30 in the morning because they don't know what time it is, makes no difference to you. So it's like, I can go to bed later tonight. That'll be nice. No difference. You just get less sleep. But I'm glad to be here with you guys. Fun slate. Honestly, a much different slate, Ben, than it looked like on Tuesday when you and I did the first look show. Like the DeAndre Swift news is big. The Ramondre Stevenson news is big. We knew something like this was going to surface. You just never know what it's going to be. You don't have practice reports, on Tuesday. You're just kind of laying the foundation, what guys look good, who we expect to play. But this slate looks way different now than it did before.
Yeah, I mean, this has been, and it's going to keep happening as you get later in the season. Value running backs, when they pop up, they change the entire dynamic of the slate. And that's not a surprise here. We're going to see some of the most popular options be guys that would have been literally 0% owned in different circumstances. So I kind of like it. It does lend itself, and this has been a theme of the year, I think. You're going to be able to pay up for 2 or 3 big time names if you punt at running back. So we're going to break it down and we're going to see what we can get.
Anyway, how you feeling, man?
I'm all right. I got a little cold. You can blame Tennessee football last night for an absolute kick in the absurd. Just absurd, but I'm feeling good.
One day I'm going to ask you that question and you're going to say, I feel good.
I 2 weeks ago, I felt great. All college basketball starts tomorrow too. So like, I have to find daylight savings time. I need to invent time because I need to prep for these games, and it's very difficult to find time. But we're gonna do all of it. Count that. This guy knows what he's talking about. John knows. I agree with that statement.
Yeah, like straight Matthew McConaughey. True detective style. Anyway, glad to have you guys with us. If you don't mind, take a second this morning, atone for your sins. It's Sunday morning. You should be elsewhere, but you're here. And you know what? We thank you for it. Hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. Ben, it doesn't cost a cent.
No, it doesn't.
What do you think? We're at 292. I think 700 is pretty easy lift here.
Not easy. We could get there. About that. But man, I tell you, it's been tough sledding to crack, like, 800. That's going to be a tough lift again. I don't think we're...
No Europe game today. No London game. We should be okay.
What is that?
We got good people. What's what?
Wait, was that a stress ball?
Don't worry about it. Oh, you got one?
I mean, this is a stress ball.
What are you trying? What are you showing me up on?
I'm a magician. We got to one-up you.
I have this thing because I like it, but it doesn't do anything to alleviate stress.
No, I'm more stressed.
It's done. I just like doing this. You know what I mean? Throw it off the wall from time to time.
Yeah. No.
Anyway,
that doesn't help.
Let's go ahead. Talk some football.
Let's do it.
11 game slate. I ran the Sims. Now I ran it on 5 uniques, Ben. I think you can definitely do that this week. Also, I don't know where you are. I do feel like we should be, I'm not, you guys do whatever you want. I am definitely, to some extent, Michael, Brejan sent you guys those last week. No, he didn't, but DraftKings 2 days ago did send me a push notification. It's like, hey, get back in the game. Your most drafted player last week was Bijan Robinson in 215 lineups. Like, get back in the game. You're trying to make me quit.
Yeah, that hurt.
Yeah. But this feels like it could be one of those chalk, just eat it this week, and not in a good way. So I'm going to be getting the Manon guy, obviously. No Ramondre. You're going to be getting the some Henderson. There is some on paper great chalk, but Bijan was good chalk on paper last week too in that spot. I ran 5 uniques though, and I'm going to do that with my own lineups as well. I want to spread exposure out a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I listen, that's... Just because a guy's in an amazing position doesn't mean that he automatically is going to crush. We saw that last week with Bijan. It didn't make him a bad play. He wasn't. He was in a prime position, and he just had a floor outcome. I think that's pretty reasonable. That's going to happen. And now the pendulum shifts completely because we were talking about an elite player last week. Now we're talking about, not that these guys aren't good, but they're certainly not classified as elite players. It's just an elite situation for a lot of them. And that is different of what we're deciphering, but you don't typically get sub 5K running backs that have this type of secure volume. And that is going to be, I think, the most important thing on the entire slate.
And not just elite situation, but elite price point. Not the price point of an elite player, but an elite price point in that had DraftKings priced this to this morning, they're significantly more expensive than they are now, right? Because prices come out Monday night. So you're getting a good spot with not a lot of, although you know damn well that Mike Vrabel is going to find a way to use like their long snapper in the backfield, and Trevion Henderson gets 3 carries,
Anything to avoid, I did. First thing I did was check the anytime touchdown market because I was like, all right, let me make sure that the books believe this to be true, which they do. He's
minus money, right?
That's what I mean. So that's a
Yeah.
very big, significant indicator that he should be, along with all of them, by the way. Monungai, Tracy, all these backup running backs are in the book's eyes favorable to actually score today.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's have some fun. I did run the Sims, and just this quick question from Stu. Loughy, when do you go 6+ uniques, if ever? You can, man. Absolutely. I mean, if you wanted to, again, what you're doing with these uniques is you're smoothing exposures out, right? And any of you guys, even if you don't use the tools, I'll tell you about a flash sale that we've got going just for this show. As a matter of fact, you can see it on the screen. The link's in the description. That should, with the code RICH, you're getting 30% off any NFL package because we had a Millie winner last week using the Stokastic tool. So thank him, thank us, thank yourself for taking advantage of this.
Me for predicting it. How can we do that?
I feel like you predict one every week, though.
No, I don't, though. That's a wild ancient aliens garbage conspiracy theory. I don't do that. I pick my Millie winning spots
right.
pretty damn accurately.
And you have been good. So BS Golfer hit it. Up until 1 p.m. Eastern today, 30% off any NFL package. That's core or max, and that's weekly or monthly. So you've been wanting to try it. I get DMs every day, Loughy, are there promo codes? Any codes? Well, here's your code, 30% off any NFL package. We'll talk more about it later. But if you go 6 uniques and you're still getting positively simmed lineups, do it. But like I said, even if you're not using the tools, the whole idea of uniques, like Ben, you can hand build with uniques too, right? You might have a small core. You don't have them in everything. You're just smoothing exposure out. So when you look at your lineups, if you're playing a 20 max, they're going to be spread a lot more across that on the app, right? But you might have one that can break free. Now, if you play a tight core, you might have a ton that are over here or a ton that are over here and you cash none of them. So it's really just kind of smoothing out the variance. I do like to do that, but I'm still going to get certain players where I have a ton of them. Case in point, Bijan Robinson last week, and I ran 5 uniques. So
yeah, and that's going to happen. You have to live with that. So it's always a delicate balance. You don't want to go too flat of exposure where you're like, man, I nailed all these plays, but I only got 12% and the field had 10%. Right. You're not doing anything then. But you also don't need to say, I love this guy. I need 70%. I need to lock him. No, you don't have to do that at all. So very delicate balance. The uniques are really important, though, if you're trying to, have that risk tolerance ironed out.
Yeah, man. All right, let's get into this one. And we were first game up. Here we go. Ben, Chargers, Tennessee Titans. I mean, okay, so Joe Flacco is expected to start. That's good news. Narco Cop, what's up, dude? One of the sharpest MMA bettors out there. Also over on Tails, Ben.
Damn right. I tail his bets every single Saturday. One of the best. Yeah, 100%. Because I love sweating MMA. Also, for the MMA people, I don't know anything about MMA. That was shady business yesterday. There were multiple things not on the up and up in that sport. But yeah, one of the best, one of my favorite follows on Tails.
Follow him over on Tails, man. Go do it. But yeah, so let's get into this game. This is, to me, a very fun game. Chargers are 9.5-point favorites. Yeah, I know there's no Calvin Ridley. I don't know your thoughts on this, but to me, I think the biggest piece of injury news in this entire game, it's not that Hassan Haskins is on the IR. We knew he wasn't practicing all week. We knew he wasn't going to play. Calvin Ridley, whatever, the offense stinks. Jeffrey Simmons is out again. And Jeffrey Simmons is you could say whatever you want about the Titans, and I think Ben and I would largely agree with whatever take you had, as long as it's negative. But the absence of Jeffrey Simmons in the middle of that defensive line is a very big deal.
Yeah, I mean, they're an awful team, but that doesn't mean that their entire team is full of awful players.
Exactly.
He is a legit playmaker, and you saw it last week. You're going to see it this week. That is a monster loss for a team that doesn't have a lot of other positives going on. So yeah, it's a huge boost to Vidal. Obviously, the game script, you mentioned 9.5-point favorites, which I don't think is wrong. I wanted to find a way to maybe get to some Tennessee today in terms of the betting markets, and I don't think I'm going to do it inside 10. So yeah, that does impact the slate, and it does impact the Chargers.
Yeah, I mean, look, Kamani Vidal is not Jonathan Taylor, who there was one play last week, though. I don't know if you saw it, where Taylor ran down the sideline and these guys, it's almost like they intentionally took bad angles. Like, I thought he should have been pushed out of bounds by 3 different players.
Insane.
And he somehow scored an 80-yard touchdown. Do you know the play I'm talking about?
Yes, I do.
So you see what I'm saying, right? Like, he was running. I'm like, he's got him. Nope. He's got him. No. Well, this guy's got to get him. Nope. He's gone. I mean, Taylor's amazing. But this defense, man, the whole team, I mean, it's just pure and utter turmoil. So I like Vidal this week, getting 12%. I think we'd get a little more if we ran less uniques, but I have no problem getting to Vidal. He is, in fact, my favorite play from today, only because, and I bet the over rushing attempts last week, right, on that Thursday game. Was it Thursday or Monday? Whatever it was a primetime game.
It's all blur.
Yeah, and I should have laddered it. I mean, he ended up with 23 in a blowout. Maybe Patterson gets some work again, but Vidal you know what it is? He has played too well to have not earned all of the opportunities he's getting. To me, it's that simple. And you mentioned last week, the return of Joe Alt is a big, big deal on that offensive line. So on one hand, the Chargers get Alt back. On the other hand, the Titans are down Jeffrey Simmons again. And Kamani Vidal, I think at 6,300, I would still consider him a value based on the spread and based on his projected workload and his historical workload ever since you saw both of their top running backs on the Chargers hit the IR in Hampton and Harris.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the Chargers have weapons. They're not my favorite team to target. It's probably going to be one-offs, Vidal, Ladd on the outside. But they're getting stronger while the Titans get weaker. That's not a good recipe. The biggest thing I could say for them is I think they control the game, and you could see a pretty methodical approach late in the game. I don't think the Titans really compete here at all, honestly.
You know, if they do, it's because it's like when they say any given Sunday, it is actually – it's one of the most cliche things ever. It's also one of the truest statements ever, right?
Yeah,
the weirdest stuff happens week over week, all the time. Like the Saints almost beat the Bills not long ago, had they not tried the Philly special. There's some weird. What's that?
The Dolphins.
Yeah.
Triple smoked the Falcons.
Yeah. Yeah. And granted, Falcons had injuries on both sides of the ball, but still they were 7.5-point home favorites. Like it happens. So look, do I still want to get to some Ladd, to some Gadsden, who's been a revelation there as a rookie tight end? Yeah, absolutely. I'll still even get a little Keenan Allen, but Vidal is my top option here for the Titans or for the Chargers.
Yeah, I don't see it any different, honestly. It's not – they're just a middling team. You can target them with somewhat confidence, and the prices are pretty reasonable. Everyone's in that 5 or 6K range.
So Keith says when Tennessee finally breaks a slate, we're all going to miss it. Here's my thing, Keith, and this is not like tongue-in-cheek. I'm being dead serious. I'm not sure if Tennessee can break a slate. However, I do think there are some paths to saying, all right, I'll play Chimere DK, get a little bit of that guy who's been targeted quite a bit over the last couple of weeks. Seems like he's emerging, particularly without Calvin Ridley. Look, it's going to be a tough day for them. There's no doubt. Chargers have an above average defense. Iomanner's 3,800, DK's 3,900. Ben, if I end up getting trace amounts of those guys, I really don't have an issue with it per se. I'm not going, oh, okay, let me jam these guys because there's no Calvin Ridley. No, the passing game's been terrible. But in all likelihood, they end up having to play from behind, which means you have to throw the football. And Cam Ward, although he can run, refuses to run. So you're just going to be seeing a ton of passing opportunities. They've had trouble getting the run game going, even though their coaching staff has admitted to leaning on the run because Cam Ward is not really ready yet. These guys are fine to me. I'm not anyone that's like, man, DK or Iomanner break the slate today. I can't jump on that ship with you, but I can get on board with they're fine at sub 4K if you're loading up on studs in the rest of your lineup.
Biggest problem with the Titans is that pricing, I'd say on a macro level, has been really soft all year. So where I'm like, oh, the Titans, even though they're a dumpster fire, you can get them and you unlock these permutations. There's like 4 other stacks every week where you can do the same exact thing, and they're just simply better players. So it's really hard to justify it because you're not doing something that's unique with the Titans. And I'm someone that's tried to do that a little this year. And it's just, you can just like play the Bears stack for like $800 more.
Yeah. Or honestly, like play a Geno stack.
That's what I mean. Trevor Lawrence, Geno.
Double stack the Raiders because it's like, all right, has Geno been terrible? Has he thrown 10 interceptions? Yeah, but also that there's at least 3 touchdown upside. I'm not saying it's likely to happen, but it's dirt cheap. Brock Bowers is healthy again. Like they at least have some guys, right? And I know we'll talk about this later in the show, but I know you're interested in the Jags. You have no Travis Hunter on the IR. That's not really an expensive stack either, because if you tossed in, a cheap option alongside Brian Thomas Jr., you're getting a cheap stack there as well. So if you're going to Cam Ward and that stack, it's like, what actually is your objective, right?
Yep. We had a couple interesting questions.
Shoot, while I set us up for the next game, go ahead.
Barry said, can you discuss the best strategy in a single entry, $100 entry fee? It's honestly no different than anything else, except you're speaking in absolutes when you play a single entry, because every player is 100% exposure. Obviously, you can't have nuance. So I typically would say build some sort of an optimal and then start removing pieces and 2v2, 3v3. Like, you don't need to get crazy. Typically, chalk is just more chalk in a single entry because everyone's thinking the same thing. I only have one entry. I have to play Manungai. I only have one entry. I can't do anything crazy. You could be a little crazy in those. Just don't overdo it. Matthew said, does Stokastic have monthly subscriptions? Was in third place, 3K last year in the $8 primetime slate. Did it again last week. Very nice. Try the tools and get to the next level. You see it on the screen. We absolutely do.
You're in luck, pal.
Yeah. Yes, you are. Good timing.
Right now, there's a flash sale literally till 1 p.m. Eastern. So you get 2.5 hours. Any NFL package. By the way, shout out to our boy Morgan, who hit the millie earlier in the year. BS Golfer. 2 millies in 8 weeks is pretty good. And we got 30% off any monthly or weekly, core or max. Use that link in the description. Check out with promo code RICH, not the person, but the way of life. Now that check out, use promo code RICH on any NFL sub, weekly or monthly, and you got that right there, man, till 1 o'clock Eastern. All right, so Carolina, I'll tell you, I'm not getting anything from Carolina.
Just go to the Packers.
Okay, I do want to point out, though, for people that have questions, we try and cover our bases here. It's not just that they're not good. Now, Bryce Young is back, which, who cares really? But their offensive line is in bad shape, dude. Bad shape. Right, like Brady Christensen's on the IR. Their starting center and Cade Mays is out. He's out, and 3 of their other offensive linemen are questionable. So you already have a tough matchup. You already have Micah Parsons on the other side, a very good defense, Ben. And now you have a situation where Bryce Young could be under constant duress at Lambeau all day long. To me, this is just maybe the most unenviable and unappealing spot on the entire slate.
I wasn't even joking. Like I wasn't like, Carolina has no utility to me. Again, there are price points on other teams that mirror their players, and it's a 43-point total, and the Packers are double-digit favorites. So just do the math in your head about the implied total for Carolina, and you quickly realize it's almost an afterthought outside of a flyer here or there. They just have no upside today.
All right, so I don't know. I ran this. How am I not getting any Josh Jacobs?
I'm not getting him either, but I really wasn't bothered by that.
So I have two. I actually bet Emmanuel Wilson over rushing yards this week because I do kind of feel like there's a possibility that Josh Jacobs' calf injury is not 100%. Right? Like, we've now seen him limited in back-to-back weeks. We saw him almost not play against Arizona. And then he played and wasn't that effective. Last week against the Steelers, he played and Emmanuel Wilson was more effective. I don't know, though, man. Like, what are they, 13.5-point favorites now? It's odd to me. You have no interest in Jacobs here. I know he's a little expensive, but what if he is just okay now and he just gets a lot of, the other thing about Josh Jacobs, let me just throw this out to you and bounce these thoughts. He has he has 11 goal line carries this year. No other running back on the Packers has a single goal line carry. The only player with more carries inside the 10 than Jacobs, who has 19, is Jonathan Taylor. So I mean, he's just like, one of the most solidified, guaranteed options once you get inside the 10-yard line. Literally the only other guy is Jonathan Taylor in the entire league.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I want to be clear. I'm not saying like, oh, I'm Xing out Josh Jacobs. It's just he's getting squeezed because of the situation. Most people are paying down at running back for at least one spot. Then it affords you money. You're going to get McCaffrey. Some people will go to get Jonathan Taylor, who I actually view them very similarly in the sense that they're volume centric in a lot of ways. They need multiple touchdowns, which Jonathan Taylor has been doing. You've got Gibbs. You've got Bijan. James Cook is coming off a huge week. Kyron is there. I think it's just an opportunity cost for most people. And we talked about this on Tuesday. If Josh Jacobs loses the volume, he's in trouble because he's not really built to bail you out on anything else. He's built to, if you get to the 5-yard line, they give it to him 3 straight times and he falls into the end zone.
Yeah, he is kind of like 2 touchdown dependent at this point.
He's in the Jonathan Taylor bucket. I know Jonathan Taylor's been unbelievable, but when you score 3 touchdowns a week, you're going to be pretty damn good every week.
And he is scoring 3 touchdowns a week.
Every week I say the same thing. Like, well, he probably needs 2 or 3, and then he just gets them.
Multiple people mentioning Panthers D. I'm not getting the Panthers D today. But multiple people are mentioning it, Ben. I'm not there.
They got to be in the basement, right?
Dontavian Wicks is out for the Packers. Do you have any interest in some of these guys in the passing game on Jordan Love's birthday?
Well, I mean, they're flyers outside of Tucker Kraft, who I do think has solidified himself as a legitimate top-end tight end. You know, he's a weapon for them. He obviously knows how to find the end zone. They use him there. Price has come up, no doubt about it, but I think he's playable. After that, though, Watson gets inserted. You mentioned Wicks goes out. I'm waiting on Golden. I may be waiting a long time for him to finally have that game. It just seems like more trouble than it's worth unless you're playing Jordan Love. Then I think you have to at least get somebody, even if it's a skinny stack with Kraft.
I mean, I like Tucker Kraft. This guy, and I know everybody saw what he did last week, on a primetime game, but he's been doing that for a while now. It's not like that was some random performance. It's just a lot of people aren't casually watching Packers games, but Tucker Kraft is one of the best tight ends in the league from a pass catching and yards after the catch perspective, hands down.
No doubt. No doubt about it.
All right. But I like Kraft, and I want to get a little bit of Jacobs today. I don't need to get a ton, but if it turns out that now he's just good and I'm right and he actually was limited over the past couple of weeks, but he's not anymore, then, having a little bit of Josh Jacobs to me makes sense on a day where they're almost, they're 2 touchdown favorites. All right. This next game, I have not talked to you about this. I don't know where you are on the Minnesota Vikings, but it's JJ McCarthy. It's no Carson Wentz. Clearly he was bothered by that non-throwing arm shoulder injury, and you're expected to get Darisaw back, get O'Neal back. So that's a big deal. But I mean, this just feels like a gross spot, man. A really gross spot. We're not getting a ton of them, really not much at all. When it all comes down to it, and seriously, the reason I said I wanted to talk to you about this is because typically you have some quality outside of the box thoughts on some of these good players at low ownership. Like Justin Jefferson's getting very minimal ownership, and a lot of that is because you have Puka Nacua, you have Rashee Rice, you have Jamar Chase against the Bears. You have all of these high-end wide receivers today, and Justin Jefferson, I think for good reason, on a lot of fronts, is getting ignored. What do you make of that today? And is it a spot where you also just kind of ignore him?
Yeah, for the most part. It's tough. There's a lot of different variables here, mostly that at least I don't know if JJ McCarthy's any good. And now they should be playing from behind, sure. But the difference, so I'll just get right to it. The Viking I have the most interest in is Hawkinson, because the difference is even if all these things don't go my way, he's 3,400. And in the right game script, he can still get there or at least not kill me, even if I get it all wrong. Like if JJ McCarthy is dynamic and they throw for 350 yards, all these guys are going to be in a great position. But if they're not, if they only score 13 points today, I would still much rather have Hawkinson in that outcome than Jefferson, because the chances that Jefferson gets there, if the Vikings really, really struggle, is almost zero. Hawkinson can get there in any game script because he only needs a couple of catches and a touchdown for us to get bailed out.
I kind of like that. Also, tight end position, I don't think it's that good today.
It's not. That's what I mean. And he's 3,400's pretty light. Like I feel okay with him. Again, I'm not forcing it in, but that is the Viking that I'm looking to. I'm not getting really to their defense. I'm not getting to McCarthy at all.
Neither am I. But I like the Hawkinson idea. He's the one guy whose price is far down enough on this team where you could get there. I mean, with Aaron Jones and Mason, that's tough in a tough matchup to run against. Big total in this game, but they're big dogs. On the other side, Detroit, I mentioned this on Tails earlier in the week, Ben. As a matter of fact, see if I can pull it up. Are you guys on Tails? I mean, I hope there are some people that are saying, yeah, man, of course we're over there on Tails. And just look at all these free bets popping up. Just a ton of them, man. We got repost and quote post now. But I started this Jameson Williams one off with Ben. Usually I prefer situational betting on these buy low spots over the narrative based crap. But this kind of is one of those situations where they converge. And what I mean by that is, okay, so you had the offensive coordinator say that he failed Jameson Williams. And then he actually approached him and said, we're going to figure something out here. They're coming off a bye. They worked with him over the bye. All this stuff, John Morton saying he failed him and this and that, right? So that on one hand, you're like, okay, sure, we've heard this story before. I get it. But also, this team has put up 40-plus points at home in all 3 games this year. Last year, they dominated at home almost every single week. And Minnesota, you have seen this Minnesota defense, right? While they can get pressure, Brian Flores likes to bring look at that, 100% on Tails. Steven, yeah, Rob, people. Yes, sir.
I'm giving this guy a shout out.
Josh,
signed up for Tails, won first bet on Missouri State. I'd love to hear that, my friend.
Hell yeah. And you can create free accounts too. Like a lot of the bets on there are free. Narco Cop's got a phenomenal VIP package. A lot of guys do as well. A lot of free bets on top of that too. Look, Sean, Tails is absolute fire. You know it. Tails up, Jay Baz. That's what I'm saying, man. That's what I'm saying. Appreciate it, man. Actually,
I'm gonna have some, like I said, college. I know it's an NFL show, and we got plenty of NFL bets. College basketball starts tomorrow. If you're not over there tailing for free, greasy college basketball, you got to ask yourself what you're doing on a Monday afternoon.
Yeah, man. And if you like it, if you guys like during the games today, we're never going to, you can always create a free account. There's always going to be free content. There's never going to be a time where it's just like, hey, we're paywalling every bet ever. Right. But if you guys do like the platform and you like, hopefully you're using the app, because I use the app for all of my stuff on Tails, even posting a lot of bets. If you enjoy the app, whether you're on an Apple App Store or the Google Play Store, you can hit us with a 5-star rating. We had a ton of them come in last week, and that's all thanks to you guys. Even if you don't have time for a review, hit that 5 stars if you love it. Appreciate you guys for that. Even during the game today, you're pulling up some bets or beforehand, just tap that. Help us out. Goes a really long way. But my point here with Jameson Williams, Ben, is more so that the Vikings defense, yeah, they can get pressure, but who's better at getting the ball out quickly, than Jared Goff? He's very good at that. And you have a guy in Jameson Williams who can be a downfield threat, but also get yards after the catch. And you saw, remember 2 weeks ago, A.J. Brown, 79-yard touchdown against Minnesota. Devontae had like 2 for 35 plus. You saw Metcalf in London with an 80-yard touchdown against this Minnesota defense. You saw Justin Herbert rip some big plays. I think he hit Gadsden on like a 40-yard pass as well. When they've had good quarterbacks with good pass catchers, Minnesota has struggled. You look at them, it's like, oh, okay, they also faced Dylan Gabriel and Jake Browning and held them to not much. But when they face good quarterbacks, they have had some damage done against them. So do I think that Jameson Williams is a crucial play? Not at all. I actually like him more in the betting market, because you want to talk about super depressed odds. But I just think, you're talking about a game here where Detroit is so good at home that I want pieces of this. I have no problem spreading them around with Gibbs, Sun God, Laporta, Jameson Williams, I might try and get even. If I got 10% Jameson Williams, I'd be very excited about that. And it wouldn't kill me if he doesn't get there. I'd still be 2x the field. That's what I'm doing with them. And I want to boost Jared Goff a little bit in case he just has another one of those ridiculous dome games like we see all the time.
Yeah, I mean, Detroit is a different. I've said this before, and we were just talking a little about college football, or at least I was in chat. They have a college football mentality in the sense that like they go full onslaught. You know, when you look at teams, it's like, well, I can't play like 3 or 4 guys because realistically, how are all these touchdowns? The Lions can score 45, 50 points. They could throw 6 touchdowns. Like that is a thing that they do. They don't stop. They're high octane. Sometimes it just goes to one guy like Gibbs. Sometimes all of them get there. And so there's just a lot of utility on this team. They're on the complete opposite side if you were thinking about a graph, though. It's not, do you want to target them? It's how difficult is it to decipher, look at the screen right now. You know some of these guys are going to score. But week to week, Jameson Williams just got blanked, and he could have a $150 and 2 today. It is that wide of a range of outcomes. So the easy answer, it's not a great answer, it's not scientific, is I just want to make sure I get healthy exposure to the Lions. I don't have a huge priority list. I think it's kind of in order of their salaries, and I am taking Goff and going some onslaught teams just to really capture them. Montgomery, probably the one that I have least interest in, but I did bet him over on Tails. It's not posted yet, but I'll give you guys a sneak peek. He's in my anytime touchdown parlay. I think he finds one today on the ground. I just like all the pay down backs so much. He's not getting into my lineups.
Yeah. Also, could not agree more with you that you just want some exposure to this team.
Yeah.
Does that include Jameson Williams for you?
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
And when I say I like him in the betting market, Ben, I meant as a ladder play. I don't ladder everything. I think I only have one ladder bet this week, but there are spots I like to pick if I think the odds are good enough. He's plus 850 for 100. That's come down since I posted it. But plus 850, he's the type of guy that I think a ladder play is kind of, to some extent, maybe it would be more so equivalent to just betting the alt to 100 instead of, laddering it all the way up. But I do think the ladder play is the most equivalent to getting tournament exposure to a guy like Jameson Williams, right? He's cheap. You know what I mean? He's cheap today. You get 2x the field. If he does nothing, whatever, there's 10%, lineups. And then as far as a ladder goes, I have like 1.1 total units on it or something like that. So it'd be the same as me just losing a bet if I bet him over 42.5 and he does nothing. So that's kind of how I view him on both angles.
Yeah, I mean, again, he's you just have to live with what we saw. I keep saying last week. I'm pretty sure it was last week, but you have to live with some of these straight no-shows.
No, it was they had a bye, but yeah, it was their last game.
Yeah, last game. It's kind of like the Bills. It's kind of like the Chiefs. All these super offenses at times, they're going to have games where their good players have very, very methodical games because it's just not their time.
All right, let's dive into Indy and Pittsburgh. By the way, thanks to all of you guys hanging out with us this morning. Makes it fun. We got 3,300 people right now watching a deeper dive. Shout out to you guys. All right, so Indy and Pittsburgh, Ben. Mm-hmm. Indy's a 3.5-point favorite. Mike Tomlin, historically has been great as a short home dog. Not last week, and I bet him, and I needed that to complete a 3-leg parlay. Would have been a massive week. Had a good week, would have been a huge week. And they were up 16-7 at halftime. I'm like, just hold on. You don't have to win. Just hold on. Nope, lost by 10. But it feels like if you're just a casual observer, you're like, man, Indy has to go in there and beat them up. This secondary for Pittsburgh, they're old. They have not played well. Deshaun Elliott's on the IR, so he's out again. But we're not getting to a ton of them this week. And the honest answer is I get why we're not getting to a ton of Jonathan Taylor. He's almost 10K. The running back position is absolutely loaded. And I think it's tough to get there on a week where you have good value, but also some really good expensive plays who are still significantly cheaper than Taylor and in good spots. Look, he's liable to go for 3 touchdowns. He's done it in 4 of his last 6 games. But to me, I would rather get to guys like Warren and Pittman. I do like Pittman a little bit more than the Sims are giving me today at 5,900. I think Daniel Jones really likes him. And not only does Jones like him, but this Pittsburgh secondary, I mean, they allowed Jordan Love to complete 20 straight passes last week. They just, there's name value in that secondary, but they're getting old.
Do you like Dan? So I agree with everything you just said. Do you like Daniel Jones as a stack?
I'll have a little bit. Yeah, I think it's reasonable to have some. If your question basically is like, is he a priority? No, but I do like Pittman more than the 5% I'm getting. Perfectly fine getting to Warren at what I think is a relatively weak tight end spot. Even guys like $4,400 Josh Downs. It's just a very good Colts defense. And you can't tell me that any opponent that faces the Colts right now is not going to come in and try and shut down their run game. But the Colts have such a good offensive line that they can protect Jonathan Taylor against a pretty good pass rush in Pittsburgh. I'm sorry, Daniel Jones. That it opens this offense up to really anything they want to do. And we've seen that through 8 weeks of the season.
Yeah, I just made a team. I hope you're right about that, because I just made a team right before the show that I liked, and it was a Jones +2, and it had Josh Downs on it. So yeah, this is a team that has been obviously very impressive this year. This is a big test for them, no doubt. The only guy that I'm really not going to be on is Jonathan Taylor, which sounds crazy because I fully know and acknowledge that could end the slate. He has that type of upside. It's just the depth at that position is so immense. And I honestly don't think that Jonathan Taylor is going to be crazy popular today. Maybe that's a bad thought, but
he won't. Not at that price point. No.
Like, you just can't get to him in a gigantic way given all these situations at running back today.
And the field's just so much sharper than they once were.
Yeah, people get it.
Goody, Tomlin at a press conference talking about how they're going to attack Daniel Jones because the defense has been poor in coverage. Yeah, it makes sense. But also, the Colts can pass block really, really well. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how that turns out. It's an interesting game, if nothing else. It really is. Nicholas, curious to see how Daniel Jones plays outside in cold weather. I'm not super concerned about that, man. Like, the dude played in cold weather in New York all the time on a garbage field, which, by the way, this Pittsburgh field is apparently real trash.
That guy, their kicker, is the most underrated player, I think, in the history of the NFL. Boswell. That guy is unbelievable.
Yeah, you have other kickers.
Misses, and he kicks on that dumpster fire field.
I know. And you're going to have people being like, yeah, he's used to it. Still. You're right, though. Dustin, thought I saw on PFF the Colts pass protect grade not as good as run protection. Probably. I don't know. I mean, they're still good. They're still good, no doubt. And yeah, it's not even going to be that cold today. Like 50. I was outside earlier. It was 36 and kind of sunny with no wind. Felt fine. And these guys are NFL players.
It does. Listen, it always helps to play indoors. That's a fact.
Look at Jared Goff, right?
Like, that is a fact. I don't care if it's 60 degrees out. It just helps to have less variables. But it's a 50-point total, and they're quite aware that the game is outside. So no major concerns for me. And on the other side, I'm not getting to Rodgers, but I am getting to some Steelers, whether it's bringbacks or just targeting Jaylen Warren, another pretty reasonably priced running back today.
Yeah, man. And we saw that since he's returned from that one-game absence prior to the bye, he appears to still be the guy.
Yeah.
I have no problems. $5,500 Warren. DK at $2,100. No problems there. Yeah, this is a perfectly fine spot for me. DK Metcalf is an odd one. I just wish Rodgers would pepper him more. But, for as long as Travarius Ward is out and he's on the IR, Metcalf is going to have the advantage, in that matchup. So I like both of these guys. We are getting a little more than I thought we'd get just on a deep slate, but I'm okay with it. Now, are you getting any Rodgers in this spot? That's what I want to know. No.
And it's not, again, I don't want to say like blanket, no, I hate him, blah, blah, blah. Just no. There are just other pay down quarterbacks. He's not going to run. His utility with his running back could be check downs, and DK, you mentioned Pepper, the volume. They do give him shots, which I obviously like, and it helps him. But this is a great game. I say twist. A lot of people say like secondary stack. Like I'm gonna have some Warren Pittman, just Warren and Pittman on the same team. No quarterbacks, but just like two of my favorite players on the slate. You just take them, isolate them, and they'll be in a Jags stack or a Giants stack or some other type of stack.
Yeah, I am a big fan of the kind of secondary stacks. You call them a twist, but yeah, I like it. Also, Metcalf at 5,500 is just too cheap.
Yes, he is.
Yep. Right? He's just too cheap. And that's another one of these spots where I'm okay with it. I am absolutely okay with it. So those are the two spots for me. Outside of that, I like Roman Wilson as a player, but I don't think you need to go to any of these types today, right? Like the Calvin Austins, the Roman Wilsons. I think it's a deep enough slate where we don't really need to dig that deep unless you see it differently.
Definitely not.
All right.
Because we have value. Like when you are starved for value, you say like, okay, I might have to reach. But there's just such a opportunity cost for reaching on a guy like that.
And if you guys have any questions, feel free to hit us up. Assuming they're, somewhat intelligible, we are more than happy to hit them for you guys.
Is that a word?
And I don't, what?
Intelligible?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you said you're trying to like, someone just says something to you and you go, that is unintelligible. Can't understand it.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah,
Right?
it's a word. All right. Well,
I didn't mean unintelligent. I meant unintelligible. Like we have to know what the question means.
Yeah,
I'm more than happy to answer questions that are seemingly like novice questions. Well, no, but I mean, there's a lot of people that are new to DFS. They don't know what a lot of this stuff means. I like answering that stuff. I want to welcome people into
That's what
DFS.
we're about. Like that, honestly, but like one of my favorite things about Stokastic and Tails, I get a lot of people on Tails that hop in my Discord and they're like, I really just started betting. Like, what does this mean? And it's a very basic question. That's the good stuff. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. Ask the questions. Don't just be like, oh, that's stupid, I'm gonna have to guess, and then you screw it up. Like if you're taking advantage, of the sale for the, you have a couple hours left, don't be afraid to say, hey, I've never used these type of tools. What are you guys doing? That's why we have our Discord. That's why we have support. That's why we have these shows. And we have tutorials right on YouTube. Greg and Loughy and all the guys working through the tools so you can see how people use them. So you're not just like, I got this and now I don't know what I'm doing. That is not what it's about. So yeah, ask the questions. I didn't know that was a word though. This ain't an English show. I don't have time for that. I do geography. You do English. We got it all covered.
Sorry, next time I'll dumb down my
tone it down a little bit.
Sorry, should I not use vernacular?
Yeah, don't be.
No, but what I mean is sometimes you read a question and you're like, I can't actually understand what the question means. But I love answering questions for people that just are curious about, what we're talking about. Because the bigger the DFS community gets, the better it is for everybody. There's no doubt about that. So fire away, fellas. All right. Chicago's a 2.5-point favorite. Look, this is the elephant in the room on the slate. Right? Earlier in the week, it was Tracy after Cam Scatterboo was, talking to the opposing bench while his eyes were looking at his bench. Not great. But Monangai, now that DeAndre Swift is out, like that's just, it's a spot you kind of have to. Also, Ben, I'm sure you know this, but Roschon Johnson's out too. So this isn't just the team that is only, and they haven't even wanted to use Roschon Johnson when he's healthy, but you feel like they would have used him more today. It's Monangai and it's Travis Homer, a guy who has been a traditional like second, third string running back. We saw him get, mixed in at times in Seattle, but he's not somebody they want. And also I don't need to talk up Monangai because he's 4,600, but I think the important thing about Monangai here, you tell me if you disagree, it isn't just that he's facing a bad Cincinnati defense, but it's more so that they were already trying to get him the ball more when DeAndre Swift was healthy.
Yeah. I mean, I look at this situation. Again, chalk is just a decision of, do you need to allocate a lot? It's not anything else besides that in terms of the situation. But typically, I can say particularly now with DFS being very mature, people are smart. These guys that are 40% owned, there's a reason. It doesn't mean you blindly play them, but this is a really good spot for a lot of reasons. From the matchup to, you mentioned, this isn't a guy we've never seen. They wanted to work him in with Swift. When we were talking about Swift the last couple of weeks, you mentioned Monangai not as a play, but as a cannibalization candidate.
The reason I was worried about Swift. Yeah,
exactly. And so that is interesting. Now, I will say what happens, because this is a 2.5 point spread. I hope I don't get to see this because I'm playing a lot of Monangai like most people. What if they really fall behind? Is this guy's passing volume 6 targets? Is it 2 targets? Is it no targets? I don't really know that. That is my one question, because it feels pretty clear if the Bears win the game, he's going to have a lot of work on the ground.
Absolutely. Or if it's just close.
Yeah. If I'm just saying, like, if Cincinnati rolls them, which I'd say is doubtful, but it's not impossible, does he get phased out? Do they have the personnel to phase him out?
Right. By the way, Hermit Money, you're barking up the wrong tree, pal. Asking Ben to name 9 countries in Africa. Ben knows the capital of every country in Africa. Chad.
N'Djamena.
Ethiopia.
Addis Ababa.
Ghana.
Accra.
Djibouti.
Djibouti.
Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
What's the capital?
Djibouti.
Oh, okay. Comoros?
Moroni.
Burundi, my favorite.
Lilongwe? Maybe not. That's your country with the people who carry the stuff on their heads.
Yeah, because it's one of the most impressive. People always thought I was making fun of it. I wasn't. It's the most impressive. Dude, they do like 90 miles per hour on a half broken bicycle.
You watch too much YouTube. That's
down
the moral
a
of that story.
60-degree hill with 500 pounds of banana on their backs. It's insane. Anyway, no, you got that one wrong. Gatega or something?
Gatega, yeah. I would never have come up with that.
But yeah, this guy it's name any country in the world in chat and see if Ben knows the capital.
I got bear stacks to talk about.
It's ridiculous. I'm just saying.
Saying. Yeah, but I didn't know unintelligible was a word or whatever.
Unintelligible.
It
would be illegible is the other word you're looking for.
Okay.
I like DJ Moore today, man. There's no Luther Burden. I have a slight read on this. Now, it could be wrong, so we'll just call it an angle, right? DJ Moore has been used out of the backfield this year at times. What if instead of Travis Homer getting, a lot of the spell work, what if they decide to give DJ Moore 3 or 4, opportunities out of the backfield and potentially in the red zone? I do think that's in play. And without Luther Burden, it's really, I know Moore hasn't had a great year, but he's 5,200. It's him, it's Romadunze. What is the capital of North Sentinel Island? Go ask them. Go ask those guys. Row your boat up there and ask them what their capital is, and then see if you can report back. But I think that's a reasonable take on Moore. They might just try and do some gadgetry with him.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways, particularly with a coach like this, that they can mask. Okay, running back goes down. Do we want to just give the next guy up, or do we want to change the fabric of the offense and be a little more dynamic? Bubble screens, other runs. Like, you look at like Cincinnati, who's on the other side of this game. They were just like, all right, we'll just give Chase the ball. Like, again, on bubble screens, things like that. And Chase Brown, of course, factors in as well. But the Bears are in a good spot. I actually kind of like Cincinnati in the game. I'm going to try to force in a little Caleb, though. I don't have any. I'm not getting a ton, but I think I'm going to do that. My biggest question, if you get to Caleb, will you put Monangai in those lineups? Yeah.
I'm not. Well, are you saying manually, or will I remove him from those lineups if I get them? Because I don't. I think you can go pretty heavy-handed because he's so cheap. Yeah.
I think that's where I'm at as well. I will not alter it if that's what I get.
I don't think I will. Do I want all of them like that? No. I think there's a pretty wonderful angle here where you could say Caleb double stacks without Monangai. If he doesn't have a good game, you're taking out a lot of not taking out the field. It's not a showdown slate, but right? Like there's real leverage there if you decided to go like Caleb doubles without Monangai, and the passing game lights it up.
Yes, that's kind of where I'm going back and forth, because it's like, if I'm going to take Caleb, I almost want to leverage fully against Monangai. So
I
like,
get that.
You know what I
But
mean?
there is still a way that like Caleb singles plus Monangai, because it's so cheap, all get there. Like Caleb plus Moore plus Monangai is what are we looking at? 10-9, like 15-5 or something, right? For 3. That's against maybe the worst defense in the league. So that could work too. Both of them could work. Humble, Loughy, have you seen the people where they chase the cheese wheel? Yeah, true idiots. I saw a video of the one guy looked like he was tossed out of a bullet train, and he somehow survived.
Yeah, I mean, know. That's
you've never seen the cheese wheel run where they chase the
one. I have. That's certainly not.
And one bad move, your body no longer. Your body is no longer. Like, you no longer have control over your body. You know, you look like. You know, in front of the car dealerships, you have those wiggly men balloon things that go like that. You just look like that. And I think the reason you survive is because they say, like, if you don't tense up before a car accident, you know, your body is relaxed. I think that's why. They can't tense up. They just float around like a piece of paper.
We're hitting everything on this show. Capitals, cheese, bear stacks.
Throw it at us. I think we got some pretty good NFL information right now.
Oh, we got that. And like I said, it's never hurts to learn about some little geography on the side.
We're making seamless transitions here. You never know where we're going to go.
It's true. Keep you on your toes.
But no, for real, Monangai looks great. I do want to get to DJ Moore today. I was actually really happy to see that the Sims gave me 17% here, because I wasn't sure if we would. Caleb Williams, fine. I'm not the biggest Caleb Williams fan, but you know, not bad. And then Rome, I 6'6". He's a little bit expensive, which is why I like Moore a bit more. But I like Rome Odunze too. I don't think I get down to like anybody else here. You could have twisted my arm on Loveland if Komet remained out, but he's in. So it's basically those 4, the top 4 that we're getting double-digit exposure to. I like it.
I agree. Yeah, I'm not reaching on the Bears. It's going to be the main targets.
Yep. There you go, Pigpen. Wacky waving, inflatable, arm flailing tube man. Yeah, there you go. I call it the wiggly man for my kids whenever we drive past them, but I don't actually know what they're called. All right. Should we talk Cincinnati here too? I believe we probably should, given that this game's got a big total. Joe Flacco is expected to play. Sprained AC joint in his throwing shoulder. I don't love that, but he's going to play. So you're going to end up getting the Jamar. The guy's target share is almost 50%. He's been targeted almost 50% of routes run since Joe Flacco took over. I mean, Joe gets it. Joe understands what you're supposed to do. I like that. The only spot that we're not getting to that I wanted your thoughts on was Chase Brown. I think it's a good spot and a good matchup for Chase Brown, but similar to the Swift conversation we had, and even Josh Jacobs with Emmanuel Wilson behind him, Zach Taylor seems intent on giving Samaje Perine decent work in the backfield, and he's actually proving to be pretty effective with it. That makes me nervous on a really deep running back slate.
Makes me nervous too. And yeah, there's a lot of factors there. You mentioned Perine's factoring in, and it's really big opportunity cost no matter who you play at running back. I wasn't getting to Flacco. I'm not going to get to Flacco. I don't think it affects Chase a ton. So if you have money and you want to play Jamar Chase or Puka, Steelers choice up there. T. Higgins is another person you'll be seeing if you have notifications on Tails and you follow me, you'll be getting the ping in about an hour that I bet him to score a touchdown. I like him today. I'm not sure I'm going to get a ton of him in DFS. He's in a middling price point. I prefer Pittman if I had to choose one right at upper 5s, but it's still T. Higgins. He's an elite player. We talked about it. I know this stuff shouldn't matter, but it does. Him sliding on the 1 yard line, people would have a lot more interest just if they were box score hunting and they saw an extra 10 points or 8 points or whatever it would have been. So
yeah, it would have been extra 6.3, I believe.
Yeah, that's fair. Or if it got to the bonus, but who knows?
I think it actually would have gotten.
Yeah, it was close. That's why I said that.
So it would have been an extra 9.3.
Yeah.
Point is, you're right. He would have had a big 2 touchdown. I remember because I had the over on Higgins yards in that game, and we smacked that 3-leg parlay over on tails.
Yes, we did.
Right. That was a fun one. But yeah, you're right. It's just another reason they're down on him. Chase had 400 targets last week. I think Higgins had 2.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like his targets, they're looking for him in the red zone at times. He's obviously a big dude. Chase, they're just like, all right, 3-yard, 8-out, 4-yard. Like he's getting peppered in between his real targets as well. So I get it, but it's not for a great healthy total. And at home, I'm more just getting a piece of Cincinnati. I did play a touch of their defense as a complete YOLO because I don't think anybody's going to do that because they got -4 last week and everyone's playing the Bears. And I totally get that. So am I. But if the Bears crumble, I would gladly take Cincinnati's defense if I knew that.
Just because this is a big game, favorite spots from both sides, and also your favorite way to play this, whether it's the Caleb stack without Monangai. I think it's interesting. I don't mind. But I also love Monangai, 4,600. I think he's still a very good piece at 46. You mentioned T. Higgins. Also, this is the type of game where if you decided to full out game stack, I understand that as well. It's just a good overall game.
You can do a ton with it. My favorite game is probably one of the more generic ways, which is Monangai for salary relief, Chase as a spend option with no quarterbacks.
Okay. I do want to say a full game stack will not be that popular. People don't like doing that.
Nope. And it can work, certainly in a game like this.
San Francisco and the New York Giants, surprise, surprise, lots of Christian McCaffrey here. 47%, getting Juwan Jennings too. I like that. Also, Giants secondary is very banged up. They have a really banged up secondary right now. It's going to be Mac Jones, no Brock Purdy in this one. He's questionable, but that is only because he might be the backup or the emergency quarterback. George Kittle as well. Look, the New York Giants secondary right now has some real issues. Christian McCaffrey probably gets back to, what we had seen from him all season long. Last week was a really brutal matchup too. Houston was coming off a bad loss in primetime to the Seattle Seahawks. They come back, good defense at home, and ton of injuries to San Francisco. It's not all that surprising. So I actually don't mind San Francisco at all today. And with the injuries to Ricky Pearsall, this offense is concentrated. It's these 3 guys. Of course, sometimes you'll see some Bourne or whatever, but like McCaffrey, Jennings is down to 4,300. And that's the other thing. It's not just that there's injuries, but this is a team now outside of McCaffrey where if you get to Jennings and Kittle, you don't have to get to them together, but just in general, Jennings at 4,300 is very, very inexpensive in a matchup against the Giants team that has several notable injuries to a secondary that was already suspect to begin with.
Yeah, this is a good spot for them. Whether you force in some Mac Jones, who I don't think will be overly popular, or you just say, I want to get some exposure, and you have it at every position, which is nice. You could pay for Kittle, very fair. You could pay down for Jennings on the outside, very reasonable. And you could pay up for McCaffrey. I don't worry about his long-term. It's like Bijan. And the difference, if you want to give an excuse to McCaffrey, you mentioned Houston. That was a really tough matchup. I played McCaffrey a good amount last week because I had Stroud stacks, and I got that part right, but I didn't have the McCaffrey piece. So I'll go right back to them. I like this game. I'm more bullish on this game than any game we've talked about relative to the field so far. I like this game a lot.
I agree. And I think you'd agree a lot of it, not just McCaffrey, but a lot of it just has to do with some really good salary relief.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's just like betting to an extent when we talk about the lines. Everybody's a play at a certain ownership or a certain price. And with these Niners guys, if they were priced differently, I wouldn't have interest, and they're not, and I do.
Smeed, Loughy's pissed he hasn't talked about breakfast yet. No, because I don't eat breakfast on Sundays, man.
Really?
There's a little known fact. Typically don't eat breakfast on Sundays. We just rip all the way through 1 o'clock, Ben. So
that sounds miserable.
Well, not really. If you go a sustained period of time without eating, you actually feel fantastic. I recommend.
I feel hungry when I do that. That's
why
I eat.
Not once you get past that hunger, dude, your energy levels go wild. I recommend everybody try it.
That's good. Don't do that, people.
Why? It's healthy. Anyway. Bo, I lost 100 pounds skipping breakfast for you. My man, hey, Bo gets it. Bo understands. All right, so let's talk about the Giants for a second here.
72 hours.
Now,
Yeah,
I get a 24-hour fast in usually like twice a month. I've gone 48, never did the 72. I don't know if I want to punish myself that much. But, that's when the autophagy kicks in, Ben. The cellular recycling. We'll talk after the show. Anyway, Tyrone Tracy, earlier in the week, we might have been, no joke, we might have been getting like 70%. Might have been getting 70% Tyrone Tracy. Now it's 29%. But this is a guy that did have some bell cow workloads last year when they didn't really have anyone else and Singletary fell out of favor. I think it's a good spot for him. Not the greatest matchup overall, but, Bryce Huff is out again, and you don't have Warner. You don't have Bosa. Like, this defense is – I don't think it's going to look as ugly as last week, but there are injuries there, and I think Tracy's workload should be enough. Plus, Dart doesn't mind targeting these guys in the passing game. So 5,100, fine. Wan'Dale Robinson, possession guy, but a good PPR player. I don't hate it. Like you mentioned on both sides, this game is just interesting because everything is so cheap outside of McCaffrey. Everything. Yep. McCaffrey's the only guy.
Yep. And he's in a different category, but the Giants, no one's expensive. You could do anything you want, and I am. Tracy's certainly in the pay down running back range. I have some Dart in the pool. I'm fine with that. You could go skinny with Wan'Dale. You could throw Theo Johnson in there. You could put Tracy in there if you wanted to. I guess you could go Slayton if you're just trying to smack he's got to catch a 60-yard touchdown, but he does that at times. I remember it many a times over the years of Slayton having one of those games. The Giants are in a good spot. This is another it mirrors the game we just talked about. You have a 2.5-point home dog with a healthy total and very reasonable options. So I'm going to have some Giants exposure. I think they're one of the better leverage teams, and the Sims agrees.
Yep. Now, are you game stacking this, or are you piecing together players throughout lineups? Because the game stack scares me a little bit. Someone mentioned this could be a 2013 game, which you're very right. This could be a really ugly game. I'm kind of the mindset that I'd rather spread my exposure out across lineups than concentrate too much of it in individual lineups. Do you think that's the wrong approach this week?
No, just because, again, there's just so many options elsewhere at these price points. Like on a typical week, if we were talking about a $5,100 running back in this spot, we would be saying this is like the spot. He might be the third guy as a pay down running back. Like when we haven't talked about Henderson yet, and I think most people have Monungai ahead of him. So it's like that part of it is a little tricky. I am stacking the game in some lineups, though, particularly on the Giants side. Maybe I'll get some Mac Jones, as I mentioned. So this is, again, we've only talked about 6 games. Relative to the field, this is my favorite game we've talked about.
I love it. Dirty O, Jackson Dart is the Gen Z hope for a good QB. Yeah, I agree. Also, kind of he's pretty emblematic of the overall disintegration of a nation as well. Can you tell I'm not a fan? But no, I mean, Jackson Dart can go out there and have a great game. He could have 2 rushing touchdowns today. So Jackson Dart skinny stacks, I mean, we're getting 11%. I don't mind that at all. I assume you're okay with Dart as well, not just pieces of the skill play. Yeah, me too. Absolutely. All right. Gang, so we got started a little bit late here. Greg was trying to build a lineup from someone who gave him like 16 lineups that were above the cap or didn't have enough players, but not Greg's fault.
Some of these
Atlanta,
teams.
New England. All right. I don't know what I really want to do with Atlanta today. I mean, it's more so, do we go back to Bijan when everybody just hates Bijan Robinson and now he's getting sub 10%?
To me, Atlanta is one of the easiest teams to break down. You have 2 players that I view as matchup proof and always playable in Bijan and Drake London. I will play them a little and I will move on with my life. I'm not stacking them. I'm not getting to Mooney. Pitts is maybe in the discussion, but you just have two players I think you could play in any matchup at any time, and they're not going to be popular. So it makes it even easier to get anywhere from 10 to 20%, 15%, and call it a day.
Yeah. All good, Sean. We love you around here, brother. You're always hanging out. But it was funny. It made for a great bit. So you should pat yourself on the back for that. Dude, people are going to riot if Bijan Robinson ends up having a monster game today. Can you imagine, like, after last week just being a 0, and now he comes out and just destroy? It's very possible, too.
Yeah. Why? Like, I always find that crazy. Like, he's going to have some games that are bad. What do you think? He's going to have an amazing game every week? And then, like, if he has a terrible game, he can't have good games again.
I know.
It's like he probably is going to be just fine. I'm assuming Bijan's going to have some slate-breaking games between now and the end of the season.
He is, and some of them are going to be in not great matchups.
Of course. He's Bijan. He's an elite player. Do I particularly think it's today? No. But no one else does either. That's why.
See, like this right here. Jacob, Pats have not allowed 50 yards to running back this year. Someone actually DM'd me last week, and I love these type of people because, when you and I take our L's, we got to do them in front of a camera, right? But someone hit me up midway through last week's slate and was like, "Yo, I'm taking the L on this." I'm the guy in chat on the deeper dive who said that the Panthers' run defense hasn't given up anything lately. And James Cook went for, remember, because you and I are like, it doesn't actually mean all that much. James Cook could go out there at low ownership and annihilate them. And he ended up being a critical piece in the slate. So when this is Ben's philosophy, it's my philosophy. Anyone who's doing this when it's just a good player at low ownership, the matchup is far less relevant than if we're trying to play like Kyle Monungai up against, this same team. It's just different. What did you want to say about that, by the way?
That's the exact situation. And shout out to that guy because he's
right here in chat. That's what I'm saying. Big shout out to him.
Yeah. Respect. But it's a data point. And that doesn't mean, like, if Bijan gets stifled today, he's up against a pretty respectable team. But, it's all range of outcomes. That's what the Sims, that's what the tools do. And that's what we preach. It's more fun to speak in absolutes, obviously. Like, oh, this guy's going to crush 100% of the time. And then he does. And you're like, I knew it. It's like, yeah. Or it's just like bets. When your bet wins, it's like, yeah, I nailed it. Or you got a coin flip that you had a slight edge on.
Pretty sure a lot of people, including myself, said Bijan is going to crush last week.
Yes,
yeah. But you don't victory lap that. You only remember the others. Zay, Pitts is a contrarian play. Sure. You want to go to Ben's thought process on a guy like, who was it earlier? Hawkinson? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Pitts should be a little cheaper. He should probably be the Hawkinson price. But, yeah, tight end's not great. Not a problem there. I want to get some pieces of this. I think I'm in line with you. No priorities. I'll probably bump Bijan a little bit, though, just in case. New England on the other side, a lot of Travion. What are you doing with Ramondre out?
I'm playing him. Again, I checked the sports books, did my due diligence. It's not a talent issue. I think this guy could be really good. Price is right. The role has to be closer to what we've all envisioned at this point. It just has to be. Yeah, I think if I could only play one pay down running back today, it would be Monungai. And I think the field would agree with that. But I'm going to make room for Travion, and I'll have some digs, and then I'll pass on the rest.
He's 4,900 now. Antonio Gibson is out.
They're all out. There's nobody left.
I know. What they have Dearness Johnson, who I believe they elevated, Terrell Jennings. If Travion Henderson does not get the work in this game, that'd be crazy.
I mean, that would be. I'll tell you this much. If you don't think that there's a better way to play this than just shorting him, you should go short him on the sports books because the books are saying that he is going to get this work. So you can make a lot of money shorting him there if you don't believe he gets the work.
I mean, really what you do is you just boost a unders parlay, same game parlay on Henderson.
Yes. And you could do that. I certainly won't be.
No. I think he probably gets the opportunities here. If not, ooh, man, then it's just like, all right, when do you ever plan on using him, right? Seriously, at that point, it'd be, when do you intend on ever using Trevion Henderson if you don't use him today?
Yep. I agree.
It's possible. Goody, Henderson's just horrendous. That's the thing. He has not been that good. You're not wrong. He's not a good pass blocker. He has not been that good. But, sometimes you get thrust into a situation where, Terrell Jennings and Dearness Johnson better than Trevion Henderson. If the answer is yes, then, the Patriots made a colossal misstep when they drafted him. There would be no other explanation at that point. They drafted the wrong guy. Diggs is interesting to me, though, actually, at 5,700. I like that we're getting around. We're only getting around the field, but I'm okay with that, Ben. And Hunter Henry. He's a red zone threat, end zone threat. He falls into the same bucket as Pitts and Hawkinson for me at 3,700.
Yeah, again, these are salary relief options, kind of just flyers at these price points. I don't have like a strong take on them. They just fit a specific lane, and they are, I say this a lot, at least this is how I picture lineups. Not everyone in my lineup needs to win the tournament for me. I need certain guys to not lose the tournament for me. And that's the type of play where I'm just like, do your thing, be irrelevant, and then my stance will determine my fate. You don't want every play being like, oh, this is going to be a 0 or a 40, because 1 or 2 zeros and you're completely dead.
Exactly. I'm Authentic says no one's talking about Laporta. We did, but our process there was mostly like we just want to get exposure. And I hate giving takes where you're just kind of straddling the line, Ben. But with Detroit, isn't that kind of what you have to do on most weeks? If you like the spot from, you spread exposure around, unless there's a guy that's wildly overpriced. And that's why I want to get more Jameson Williams, because he's cheap.
Yeah, I agree. It's hard to really give this is the week for one Lion.
Pittman or Ladd on DK, no correlation in my lineup from Corey. Ben, what do you got?
It's close, but Pittman for me.
Pittman? Okay. I thought we had one more super chat. I guess not. If you see him pop up, let me know. And thank you guys for the support. All right. Denver. No, I just checked. I think we're good.
Okay.
Denver and Houston. You were telling me everybody's on Denver today.
Except one person. There's one
you.
person on Houston. That would be me.
Except for you. Did you post that one on Tails yet?
Oh, it's my bet of the day. I drop every morning at 9 a.m. I drop one bet for free. My bet of the day, Houston Texans are that play today.
Okay. There it is. There it is. Which is funny because I drop a lot of my sides. What's that?
It's not on the screen if you're just so you know that.
You could have added, dude. Just start adding it. You can do these things.
I don't know what that does. I do that on the Tuesday show.
Just hit add to stage. Look.
Okay.
I'm not infallible. I can make mistakes producing this show, Ben. Sometimes I just need you to pull me up. You
want to start doing things? I can do things.
That should have been for you.
Yeah, it was.
Oh, okay.
It was.
I posted Denver earlier in the week. I didn't think they would be all that chalky, to be honest. I also quote tweeted you here on the Raiders play, but I just think the biggest advantage that Denver has is that pass rush against Houston's offensive line. I know Houston's O-line looked better last week, but we talked about it extensively. And by the way, this has nothing to do with me betting Denver and you betting Houston. I'm talking DFS here. The last week, again, San Francisco's D-line and their pass rush was totally neutered and should be again this week. Denver can rush 4 and get a boatload of pressure. Vance Joseph has figured things out with that. So does CJ Stroud have time to throw? I know Nico's back. I know Kirk is back, but do they have to? And I'm a big Woody Marks fan. I think that guy's going to be very good. So keep an eye on him. But no Patrick Surtain. That doesn't help. Maybe Nico has a game. But again, does Stroud have time to throw the football? That's the question I have. And that was kind of the way I put it over there on Tails. That is my biggest question going into this week. I want to know what you think about it.
We're saying the same thing. If you look at my explanation on Tails, it says, can Stroud have time? And I don't know the answer to that. But if he does, I like everything else about Houston. Denver, as good as Denver is, 6-2, really solid. You know who they've beaten? It's pretty rough. I'm trying to rattle this off in my mind. I believe it's the Jets, the Giants, The Titans, it's some real the Cowboys, it's some dumpster fire teams. They beat the Eagles, sure, but most of their wins have been pretty weak. Also, they're not at home here. Also, the Texans defense is as good as advertised. It's just there's a serious problem about them holding up against the pressure. And I know we mentioned it, but I don't think people, because most of us are focused on offensive players, you're not talking about losing a piece in Patrick Surtain. You're talking about losing like a generational level player in your secondary. You can't replace that in any situation.
You can't. The question is, though, does it matter if Stroud doesn't have time?
It might not. It could. The whole game could be rendered irrelevant if they can't protect him.
And if they can, they got some spots to pick on.
Yes, they do.
Sure. Yeah. So we see it similarly. We're just taking two different approaches there. Kyle, how do we like Jalen Noel this week? Now you can't go back there. Not with Kirk healthy. Not with he already wasn't playing enough, like a ton of snaps. So yeah, I like Jalen Noel for the future a lot. I like a lot of the offensive pieces for the future in this Texans team, but today, nah. To me, Ben, it's Texans D. It's some sprinkles of Nico, and that's it. Are you doing something different from a DFS perspective here?
No, I don't like the spot from a DFS perspective. It's a 40-point total. I think Houston wins with defense. It's almost a throwaway game for me on both sides.
Yeah, it's tough because there's no Marvin Mims today. It should consolidate targets more on Denver, but it's still tough. Like Derek Stingley Jr. sick, Jalen Peacher, their whole secondary is very good. The only guy that really got to him was JSN, and that guy I don't think you can defend Jackson Smith and Jigba at all at this point. So, no, I'm not really getting to this Broncos offense either, Ben. The only reason I like Denver on the game actually had nothing to do with their offense at all.
Yep. Texans defense is going to be popular, and they should be. I get that.
They should. I also think Denver's defense is perfectly good too, though.
Oh, of course. They're pressure. Pressure is always a reason to target.
All right. Old Tyler Shuck getting the start for the New Orleans Saints. The Nolans Saints, 14.5-point dogs on the road. He is expected to start the remainder of the season. Why not? Seriously, it's the smart move here. Absolutely. Well, because
no, it is. It's just I told you this. I believe he's 26.
Yeah, I get it, but I'm saying figure it out now because Rattler we knew was not the guy coming into the season. Absolutely. So now you've got a situation here where this is what just nothing. And we always get to Chris Olave, right? We get to a lot of Rashid Shaheed in the tools. Alvin Kamara's questionable. Shaheed's questionable. They're both expected to play. But, at this point, I can't do it, man. Tyler starts starting. I'm out on the Saints.
Me too. This screws everything up because we really have we're flying blind now with the quarterback. With Rattler, at least we had a decent sample size of what he's going to do in these type of games. Now we don't. So I'm out on the Saints as well.
The only thing that stood out to me here, and it's not actionable, but was that Tyler Shuck had actually a pretty decent rushing yard total. It's 18.5. So expecting this guy to run a little bit, but it's just simply not enough. Plus, you mentioned it. You made a really good point at the top of the show in the first game we talked about with Cam Ward, where, we both started rattling off cheap quarterbacks who, look, do you love them? No. In all likelihood, do they end up in the top Millie lineup? No, but they're still better than this. So I do think there's a level of crazy that you don't necessarily need to get to on this slate, but you can still live in that 4K range, not live, but you can still get the plenty of stacks with QBs in that 4K range and feel pretty good about it.
Yep, I totally agree. Obviously, on the Rams side, it's just an embarrassment of riches in some regards and premium. This is why you play these pay down running backs. It's probably a luxury spend for a lot of people today, and I get it.
Dan, hey Dan, am I crazy to think that both Rashard Smith and Emmanuel Wilson could at least pay off their salaries today? Well, here's the thing. No, if you're asking in a traditional sense, pay off their salaries, but there's no such thing as paying off salaries. It doesn't, I understand we use that terminology. It doesn't actually mean anything, right? Because what is pay off their salaries? What do you want, like a 3X on Emmanuel Wilson or Rashard Smith or a 4X? it doesn't mean anything if, Tyron Tracy and Trevion Henderson and Kyle Monungai all go for 8x their salary, or 6x their salary. So on a slate like this, where it's not a showdown, it's not an abbreviated slate, you've got 11 games, trying to thread a needle like that not only seems difficult, but unwise. So no, I would not. I think you need to phrase the question differently and phrase it. Could these guys be better than the other value options today? And if so, how do they get there? It's too tough for me to consider that, Ben.
Yeah, that's the problem. It's just, they could be fine, but the chances that happens and the chalk crumbles and you even wanted to pay down, there's just a lot of hoops to jump through. So I get it. It's more, if you think, this is the last thing I'll say, if you think that Wilson in particular could have a good game, that just solidifies that you should not play Josh Jacobs today.
Yes, but you have always had a really good way of putting things when it comes to situations like this, where you need to basically you need to align the stars perfectly, and you don't want that. What I mean is, first of all, Wilson and this isn't just for this is in general, Wilson and Smith both need to actually get the work. And then 2, they also actually need to be good. And then 3, all of those other running backs need to be worse than them. That is very tough to get all 3 of those things right on an 11 gamer. So
yeah, you're betting a parlay when you could kind of bet a single bet, straight bet with some of these. Really,
you should parlay all overs if you like that. Put them together or something. Take it to the betting streets.
Yeah. Yep.
Puka Nacua, I like some Stafford here. Obviously, I like Nacua. The only real thing here for me is, do we worry at all about the fact that Corum is getting a decent amount of work behind Kyron Williams? Or do we just say, whatever, Kyron's sub 7K, they're 14.5-point favorites?
I think the answer is probably on the margins of both. Yeah, I do worry about that just as much as I worry about Wilson to Jacobs and some of these other guys. Obviously, Corum's not in consideration. It knocks down Kyron, but at the same time, there's going to be touchdowns to go around here. He can be pretty efficient, and the price gives him a little more room. I know it feels about the same, but 68 to 78 to 83, it starts to really matter when you're in those ranges. He doesn't need quite as big of a ceiling to justify this as some of these other guys. But I'll be honest, I have trouble with the Rams. I do not get them right a lot. Puka in particular, he's always extremely, extremely priced. And I seemingly always come in underweight, and that more often than not kills me. I'm going to try to make room for him today, but I like Chase more than him, if I'm being honest.
Because of the volume and the shootout potential?
Yeah, this is not if you told me who's more likely to have minimum, even though Chase has been doing this, but Puka is going to get his, but I worry about this game really being 31 or 27 to 10. And it's just ugly, and that Stafford's efficient, and there's just no serious volume.
Trey Hendrickson confirmed out, by the way. That's a tough one for Cincinnati and better for Chicago. All right, 2 games to go here, and then we'll turn this over to Live Before Lock. Make sure you guys stick around for that one. Also, you have, 1.5 hours now to take advantage of it. Flash sale today only on this show. At 1 o'clock, it turns off 30% off any NFL package. That's right. Any NFL package, weekly or monthly. You got it, man. 30% off with code RICH. See all of those links in the description for this? If you click them, it auto loads the promo code for you. You don't actually need to do anything. So if you wanted core monthly, core weekly, max monthly, max weekly, click that in the description. It'll take you there with the promo code auto-loaded. You have a little under an hour and a half. And by the way, shout out to our 2 friends here, Morgan and BS Golfer, for taking down Millie's. They made these promos possible because otherwise we certainly would not have been running one. That's 30% off any package, NFL, weekly or monthly. You got until 1 p.m. Eastern to take advantage of that one. All right, Ben. Jacksonville and Las Vegas. I kind of like this game, as a matter of fact. I like this game. It feels gross. It has a low total, but it's just inexpensive and Feels like there might be something here for us. I mentioned earlier in the week, I don't think the Geno stacks feel gross, but given how cheap all of the pass catchers are, and Brock Bowers seemingly back to full health because that injury was clearly bothering him, I like it. I want to see, I assume Devin Lloyd is active, which kind of sucks because if he was out, I would like Bowers a lot more. But just an interesting game. And then Travis Hunter's on the IR as well, which affects them on both sides of the field.
Bowers is a tricky situation because if he's good to go, he won't be 5K for long. I'll tell you that much.
Right.
I like this game. I put out my tweet. You can follow me right there. Crazy stack of the week, and it was a Jag stack. And this was before I knew Hunter was out, which I don't think really does anything besides solidifies that Brian Thomas, I don't want to say now or never, but now or never guy. It has to be him today for them. You have ETN, you have Parker Washington, sub 4. I guess you could go to Hunter Long. I don't particularly want to do that. You still can make Jag stacks. And then you talked about Vegas is a disaster, but there are weapons there. I'm playing a little Genty, and certainly you can go to Geno +2 if you want to and run it back, or don't, but run it back with one of the easy candidates on Jacksonville's side.
So this is what the exposures look like now in the Sims, running 5 uniques, 150 lineups to this Jacksonville team. We are getting some Bowers and we are getting some Myers. We're getting about 2x to field on both of those. I'm okay with it. Slightly over on Trey Tucker. 2x on Geno, still only 5%, but that's kind of what I'm looking to do. I don't need to get a ton of him. I just want a little bit here. And Jacksonville, they're not a great football team. I know they had that big primetime win against the Chiefs. They're not a great team. Brian Thomas, dude, he's honestly been one of the biggest disappointments of any player in all of football this year. I probably get back to Brian Thomas this week. I think it makes sense. No Travis Parker Washington at 3,700 is also a perfectly reasonable play. And you have seen Trevor Lawrence target him, lean on him in some spots this season. Only other question, Travis Etienne, what do you do with him?
I have him behind the pass catchers, but I don't think he's a complete washout. If you're building a lot of Jag stacks or you have a lot of teams, putting him in there, I think, is reasonable. I'd prefer just like 1-to-1, certainly Jaylen Warren in a similar price point.
Okay. Yeah, I guess so.
In
another world, on another week, Travis Etienne could have looked great.
Absolutely, but it truly isn't this week.
Top 4 plays from this game in order.
Brian Thomas. I'm gonna include stacks as a player. So Brian Thomas, the Jags stack,
okay,
Genty, and the Raiders stack.
Okay. Well, all of them, you'll have some of them.
Yes, I will.
Got it. All right, let's wrap it up. Kansas City and Buffalo. God, I hate when these games are on the slate. This could be your 27. What's that?
Why didn't they just flex
No, it's
this
not. This is 4:00 game, yeah.
No, I know. I think just of all the games to not put at night, you didn't put Bills Chiefs at night.
I thought the same thing. When I saw they were playing each other this week, I was like, well, this has to be a Sunday or Monday game. Has to be. But no, you have Seahawks, Commanders, and then Cardinals, Cowboys tomorrow.
Oh, well, Cardinals, Cowboys. I'll have to clear my schedule.
Yeah, man. Patrick Mahomes, Rashee Rice, Kelsey's look better. Are you still on board? Because I don't think we have to say much about Rashee Rice. Like, he's just monster target share. Are you still on board with getting some contrarian Xavier Worthy like you were on Tuesday?
Oh, absolutely. 100%. I don't care what anybody says. Xavier Worthy has a significant role in this offense. The snap count was healthy. These guys are absolute burners. If Worthy gets in space or they decide we're going to give Worthy the jet sweep, which they seem to do arbitrarily, it could be Worthy. So, yes. Rashee Rice is more likely. Rashee Rice is $1,800 more, or $2,000 more, rather. I get all that. Don't forget about him. The real mystery is with no Pacheco. Is Kareem Hunt in the conversation? Because normally we'd be talking about him for value, but with so many value options, he's not being discussed.
Nah, it's tough. I mean, I probably don't. I do have some bets on him I posted over on Tails. I think that's the way I'd rather go. It was 42.5 rushing yards. Like that looks okay to me. But I don't think they trust Brashard Smith. I think Kareem Hunt just feels like the type of guy that Andy Reid last year trusted. He had 20 carries per game in the 9 games Pacheco missed. He does trust him. So there's that. And Buffalo's run defense stinks. Ed Oliver is out. Jaquan Jones is out. So you have multiple guys on the D-line who are out. But I'm probably not getting there. Look, I have 1%. We have fine. I'm not going to fight that. But no, he's just, to your point, there's so much other good value on this slate that it's probably not worth getting to. But Kansas City stacks, yes. Some Xavier Worthy, yes. Obviously, Rashee Rice and Kelsey. I wish we could target the run defense of the Bills. I wish we could. It'd be a great spot to do it. Here's the crazy thing, though. Look at the Bills' exposure. Not a lot. Not a lot at all. Kansas City's defense has been good. This is in Buffalo, though. But it's just, Allen's very expensive, and all of his pass catchers are so hard to predict. Whether it's Khalil Shakir, Dalton Kincaid, Keon Coleman, it might be a random Dawson Knox touchdown. I just don't know. We had a question earlier, would you play Josh Allen naked and run him back with 2 Chiefs skill players? It's not the craziest idea I've ever heard.
Really tough. Last week it was Shakir, obviously. So the one thing, no James Cook.
I know. Well, it's price point, deep position, tough matchup. I kind of get it.
I get it. It's just, it's still 52-point total and a 1. It's just crazy how the optics,
Agreed.
This mirrors Cincinnati and Chicago, and everyone's salivating over that game. It is very difficult. The snaps counts are all over the map for Kincaid. Even Shakir Coleman's always out there, and he seems to not get a lot of work at the same time. You can do a lot with Josh Allen. I don't think I'd go onslaught as much. Maybe skinny, maybe naked. It's still Josh Allen, though. He can do things. And in a game like this has been my philosophy all the time. There's a game for these quarterbacks, and Mahomes has already been running. Like, these are the games where Josh Allen pulls it and runs more. These are playoff mentality games. He's not doing that against Carolina when they're up by like 60.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it's a tough game to build. I'll have a little Josh Allen, probably skinny with Shakir again.
All right. Well, let's pass the baton. Anything we missed, you're in good hands. Eric Lindquist, Chris Spags coming up right now. And one more shout out to you guys for hanging out. Almost 3,800 of you. Stick around. Don't go anywhere. No, I won't. Thank you to all of you guys who have gone over to the App Store, Google Play, and rated and left reviews for the Tails app. Super helpful, man. Like I said, we'll never charge you for any of the free content we have over there, but that goes a very long way, and we've gotten a lot of those recently. So salute to you guys. Appreciate it. Good luck to everybody, and we will catch you back here for the next one. Bye-bye.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Live Before Lock. I'm Eric Lindquist. You can follow me over at Eric Lindquist over on X, and I'm joined, as I normally am here on these Sundays after my 1 week off. My 1 week off last week from Sundays. I missed his face. It's Chris Spags, at Chris Spags. Go give him a follow while he's at it. Splash Play, spectacular, spectacular. No words were vernacular. Shout out Moulin Rouge. But how you doing, my dude?
I'm glad to be here with somebody of note, the South Dakota basketball legend himself, Hall of Famer, Eric Lindquist. What a treat, man. You don't get shows like this too often with the luminaries of sports being on here, but guys killed it in golf, guys killed it in basketball. I did look up your highlights, though, and I could not find any online for basketball, and it made me kind of sad.
Well, it was 2004.
I know, I just thought there might be like a YouTube clip. Maybe he posted a Vine or something. I don't know.
Vine was not around in 2006. You're the same age as me. How are you doing this?
Maybe a Facebook video.
I got a Facebook after my senior year of high school. I can remember like going into college. I was like, oh, this is going to be great. And then I realized I went to Iowa State as opposed to like, I don't know, anywhere with. We're going to hold that right there. We're not going to touch that one. I'm going to let that one go. Iowa, Santa Barbara. Iowa, Santa Barbara. Do you get what I'm throwing down?
I think you're being racist against Middle America here to start the show on our most popular day of
all right,
days.
So we've got a lot of news to get to here on week 9. Chris Spags, anything you want to bring up on this slate before we begin?
I don't know. There's a lot of Kyle Monangai. Call it a day. I think that's Monangai. I keep saying Monangai. It's Monangai. I think is the way that we've all agreed.
Monangai.
Is the way to say it. He looks like a great play. It was one of those things where I did my video on my Splash Play channel at Friday at 12 p.m. And then like a couple hours later, Monangai, the starter, DeAndre Swift ruled out after I was like, pretty sure Swift's going to play it. If he does it, Monangai looks like a really good play. Didn't realize to what extent, though. We are in another version of Bijan world again last week where the chalk was so chalky, and this week it's so chalky again. And I want to know where you stand on the great Monangai debates as well, because he's our Monangai. He's my Monangai this week. I don't know if he's your Monangai.
He's a Monangai. He likes the game of basketball. It's my Kawhi. It's pretty good. It's okay.
I did not know that was Kawhi. I got to say, I was like, what is his voice? But I'll give you a smile so you're not all alone.
Shout out Toronto. They need good vibes right now. NBA champion, Toronto Raptors back in the day, Kawhi Leonard. So 1 year of greatness there. Yeah, we'll get into that because there are some things that the Bears can do that can be very annoying in this spot. Remember who's calling plays too. This is not your standard, like we have to give this guy 20 touches up the middle kind of a thing, plot and go about it. DJ Moore not being a part of this run game would actually shock me today, Spags.
Yeah, it's a fair point. We have seen DJ Moore in the backfield a good amount. I think what just stands out to me is that, Swift has been highly involved. And I think, efficiency-wise, looking pretty good to start the year. 0.06 EPA per run, 0.26 EPA per pass. If you are playing the Spags drinking game at home, we've set EPA already, so get you drunk nice and early. But I think for how Swift looks, like he's been good, but Monangai has been just as good, missing more tackles overall. Pass game work, I'm not sure it's going to be quite as explosive there, but large reason the Bears have turned things around is recommitting to the run. They are now, negative pass rate over expectation team, so they are running the ball more than expectation. That's something where I think that benefits Monangai. And frankly, I've been surprised that Monangai iced Roschon Johnson all year. Now Roschon's not even playing. You get Travis Homer in, you get Britton Brown up off the practice squad, a guy who played well in one game in the preseason, but doesn't seem like he's really part of the plans. I just think Monangai gets fed. So I agree that there could be creative things that occur. The pass game could go off. The Bengals are a bad defense. Monangai's impressed me, and I was not somebody who was in on him before the year started.
Yeah, if you're looking at the live odds page over at OddsShopper as well, I mean, the guy's like minus 150 to score a touchdown. He's 70.5 rushing yards. If you have him in fantasy football, you're probably playing him in pretty much any format. It'd be hard to imagine a world where you're not playing him in the flex, even in half, full point, doesn't matter what kind of format. But for DFS, we are trying to finish numero uno. Sims have me overweight to him here at the moment. I am primarily focused on three. I'm playing a lot of the 3 max stuff over on DK today. Just wanted to go about it a little bit differently. Just, after my last week off of being just lazy in South Dakota, doing whatever, I'm feeling much better about my process here in the NFL streets. And I've had really good results, just kind of focusing in on leverage and where I can find that. And Caleb Williams plus pass catcher is definitely a way that you can do it. You best believe that's going to be one of my 3 lineups, but I'm still toying whether or not, and I know they had talked about it on the last show for a quick second, but like whether or not I want to make Monangai a part of that 3-man, like whether I want to have Odunze, Loveland, combined with, something of that nature. So we'll get into the ins and outs of it here because I think it's a very fascinating slate purely because we have crazy game environments, which leads us to the quarterback position here at the top. Anything actives and actives, by the way. I saw Darrisaw's in for my Vikings. That makes me happy, but Hendrickson out. That was the biggest one that I saw.
Yeah, nothing I care too much about today. Everybody who's supposed to play seems to be playing, and we got advance notice on guys like Swift being out. So nothing I'm particularly mindful of. Cooper Kupp, I guess, being out matters for Sunday Night Football, but we're not talking about that. So why would I even bring it up?
Yeah, but EMAC will be talking about that. He will probably go on a filibuster for an hour and a half about that, which I'm excited to watch. And you should be too. Again, got to give some love to my guy, EMAC. He's one of the good ones. EMAC 2028, if they allow him to. It's always been a good bit. But let's talk quarterback because there's a game environment on this slate that the Sims really have us invested in, but only on one side of it. Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, two quarterbacks. These games, whether you go back to AFC Championship days of yore with the Gabe Davis game, whether you go back to days of yore, last year where Kansas City goes in on the road and then they go in on the road to Baltimore and just did everything they needed to do. How do you feel about Patrick Mahomes right now? Currently, I'm 3X in the Sims right now, and I don't completely hate it because with Isaiah Pacheco out, who had kind of been operating as the number one RB, Kareem Hunt, Rashard Smith, these are not guys that are going to take away from Patrick Mahomes out there slinging the rock today, Spags.
Yeah, look, there's a lot of Mahomes you get in the sim. I will say for today, I feel the most comfortable moving away from Mahomes out of a lot of the chalkier plays in the slate. And it's nothing against Mahomes. I think he's playing incredibly well right now. The pass rate, the highest in the league for the Chiefs, like that stands out. In the red zone, they're also throwing 8% more than expected. That stands out. And like Eric just mentioned, the run game is not very good. Like if Kareem Hunt is your goal line option and really a guy that's spiked more times than not on showdown slates, you're not in the best situation with Pacheco out. And Pacheco himself hasn't even been that good, but he's not getting work. Like, it doesn't consolidate in a meaningful way for anybody good right now. And Rashard Smith, I think, can be gimmicky and get some touches or whatever. But, like, I think the big thing for me is, like, I don't want to pay $7K for my quarterback this week. I have a real hard time with that. I think that allows me to not get some of the guys I want in lineups the most. But again, this is one of those things where I always tell people, whether I'm on my streams here or on Stokastic itself, defer to Stokastic if you can, because like they're giving you a lot of Mahomes, 2x the fields, what I got in the sim I just ran here. But I did mute him down. I'm getting less of him and just chasing some other stacks because I think lineups look a little bit better to me if I don't play Mahomes today.
I'm not sure what he's following up on, but wanted to give Loughy a little bit more time here for a second. Devin Lloyd, I think he just wrote the incorrect spelling, but Devin Lloyd going to be out there, it sounds like, for the Jaguars today. That's something that could make Ashton Genty a little bit more interesting, that's for sure. But following up from the deep dive, wanted to throw that in for the people in case there was some kind of follow-up to it, because this is a 4-hour stream where, maybe I missed something. Maybe I wasn't listening for this portion of it. I'm sure everybody else was at home taking notes, though. That's how this works. Austin Semmelman, $1.99. Tracy or Hunt, last guy in on FanDuel ownership. Thanks, guys. Yeah, so we'll get there at the running back position. I promise you. You can ping it in the chat. I'll definitely see it again, but we're going to start quarterback. We'll get into the running back stuff here next as well, but just kind of want to keep it in order for the show. But I really appreciate the super chat, giving you a shout out here as we go. I'm with you where I probably want to chill Mahomes down a little bit, but, out of one of 3 single entry lineups, I'd be really remiss not to play Patrick Mahomes alongside a double. There's just so many different ways that you can put him together with Kelsey, Worthy, and of course, Rashee Rice, who I'm very much interested in being invested in on today's slate, and we will get there. Let's get into the next little tier of quarterbacks where there's not a ton of ownership that's really showing up, but there are some definite leverage opportunities here, specifically Daniel Jones. When you talk about Jonathan Taylor and what he can provide for you, if it isn't Jonathan Taylor, now you could probably combine both of them in a lot of lineups. I'm actually considering to do a lot of different things there with Daniel Jones. I did say Lloyd not expected to play, by the way. I hope I said that correctly from before.
You did critique Loughy's spelling rather cruelly, but I think you did get the right news on it. It's only a necessary barb, but that's fine. You got it out.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, we're gonna move along. Justin Herbert, he's a smart guy. He's a very smart individual. I am just but a peasant here, up speaking on my platform. Justin Herbert, Matthew Stafford, Daniel Jones, Jordan Love. Weather doesn't look perfect there in Green Bay, but it doesn't look awful. It's just mainly wind derived. I want to ask you about Jared Goff here against the Minnesota Vikings as well. This is somebody who's pulling absolutely no ownership. We know his home road splits. We know everything else. We know there's going to be blitzes like crazy from Flores. I will say this. I've had these feelings about 2-3% quarterbacks, whether it was Bo Nix week 2 against Indy, a couple of these other ones. I have a lot of Jared Goff large field tournament interest. When you talk about a 2-3% type Jared Goff, I think he is criminally underowned in this spot against my Vikings. What say you about him and anybody else in the 6K range you want to invest in to get different?
Yeah, I think Jared Goff, I feel like I've heard a lot of content creators talk about him this week, both around Stokastic, elsewhere around the industry, and it is important to, hear different voices, the different Jared Goff style voices in particular. But I think a lot of people have pointed out, including people in my YouTube chat before, I've pointed out like, oh, Jared Goff kills the Vikings every time. Like, I think there's a narrative going around that he might be good in the spot. He does have the dome stuff going. The fact that he has had his best games this year, obviously at home in a dome, I think that stands out to people. So I wonder if he gets played a little bit more than the ownership is. Stokastic has him at 2.6%. The sim, I only got him at 1.3. I did boost him up in the lineups that I put in before the show, though. So I think I'll get a little bit more than the field of Jared Goff. I agree he's a solid play. I wonder if the narrative's a little too in favor based on, DVP kind of stuff where it's like, oh, yeah, he's playing well against the Vikings and against, high blitz rate teams. But the reality is when a team blitzes a lot, as the Vikings do, 42% blitz rate for them, getting pressure on 30% of dropbacks, QB hurry rate of 13%, also one of the highest marks in the league. It just introduces volatility. So like Goff has taken advantage of that volatility before. Maybe he doesn't today. Like the game total would say he probably does take advantage of it, but I just wonder if there's maybe an undercurrent of assumption for him that the data is not capturing, because surprised to see him be a bad sim play and, just not expect to be owned very much, given that people do love stacking Goff against blitz heavy teams at home.
Yeah, and you get Jameson Williams 4,800. You get an Alpha and Amon-Ra St. Brown 300. Those two alone make it easy. You also get somebody in Jahmyr Gibbs you could go with. You could go along with Sam Laporta. I just think there's a lot of upside options that are not all that popular at their positions. And so, well, kind of like low-owned stacks in a game environment where you're a massive favorite. They're like 9.5-point favorites against the Vikings today. So one of those that I just feel as though we know that they like to run the football. We understand how the Lions get it done, but we've had so many of these just nuclear games from Jared Goff at home. And whenever he's low owned in these kind of spots, I have to give him a shout out. Daniel Jones has had an MVP caliber season to this point. Also formerly of my Minnesota Vikings, didn't play a snap for us, but that's neither here nor there. Do you have any interest there going up against Pittsburgh? I could probably change Daniel Jones' exposure the most out of any quarterback on this slate before lock. I don't know how I want to stack him up with Downs there, with Pittman there. Jonathan Taylor is so expensive. If I just want to try to encapsulate all of the touchdowns, he does have some passing game involvement there. We saw last week, instead of a third rushing touchdown, he gets that little flip forward, ends up being a passing touchdown. But what are you doing with Daniel Jones specifically?
So I did not get him a ton in the sim that I just ran. So again, another thing where talk about Stokastic data, didn't get him a lot naturally, only in 1% of my lineups. But I did push him in a little bit more in some of the builds I got him before the show, where I kind of hand select things a little bit more and try to eyeball things, which is always a great idea, I'm sure, to try to outthink a sim. But that said, for Daniel Jones, I think the game theory you think about right away is that Jonathan Taylor, a guy that does end up pretty owned these slates. I believe it's only 2 times this year he hasn't made the winning lineups in the contests he's been in. For Jonathan Taylor, that's something where I wonder if he does get a little bit higher on that 10% expected ownership for him right now. And if that's the case, then going to a stack with Daniel Jones, double stack, I think even a triple if you really wanted to, might be a way to get unique, jump whatever portion of the field that is, and also capture the upside for Colts team that yet again has over a 28-point implied total this time on the road. So I think he's a better game theory play to me than he is a data play, but I did force in some Jones plus Pittman plus Warren stacks. I like the way those looked. And I thought, I didn't get as much Taylor as I would have thought in the slate, but I tried to be with the field on him as well.
Yeah, a number of QB2s. And I will say this too, just kind of looking and filtering through the lineups before this show, a lot of those did have Jonathan Taylor attached with one pass catcher. So it just kind of an interesting build, and one that I'm really trying to figure out. I'll keep updating ownership throughout this show, have an idea of really what I want to do with him, and we can revisit that as we finish out, because he's the one quarterback that I think I could change quite a bit. But there's a lot of quarterbacks that are not going to go anywhere. They ain't going nowhere because they're maybe not bad boys for life. Caleb Williams, he's been terrible for the most part, but he has Ben Johnson play calling, and he gets to take on a Bengals offense that's 32nd in so many different defensive categories, plural defensive categories. They are awful, and they're going to be missing their best defensive player there. And Hendrickson brought that up in the actives and actives. He's somebody at 5,700 I think is cash viable, although Jackson Dart I think is the chalk way to go about that, and I'm just fine with it here. But in the upper fives, Aaron Rodgers, Joe Flacco. In the lower fives, you get Mac Jones, and Trevor Lawrence here. Lots of options. Everybody's pulling some kind of ownership, even north of 5% on Lawrence and Flacco. Caleb Williams, though, and Jackson Dart, cash game du jour's two-part question. Favorite tournament play in this range, favorite cash game in this range. Go.
I'm with you. Go. I'm with you. It's Jackson Dart. I think he's the obvious cash game play, and it's not just Stokastic data. It is other industry data as well. It's going to put him in your cash game lineup and your optimals. A lot of Theo Johnson as well around the industry, I've noticed. So I think the Giants going to be a key part of things, and I think the natural kind of game stacking based on projections that occurs. So that Giants-Niners thing, game rather, that's going to be one that comes up a lot just based upon how projections work. So for Jackson Dart, he's coming up a lot for me. I prefer Caleb Williams, though. He's a guy I forced my way to 2x the field on. Feel pretty strongly about trying to cut the ownership a little bit on Manungai and Jamar Chase by adding on top Romo Dunze and Caleb. That's one of my preferred ways to try to get in some amount of lineups today. So for Caleb, I know people are a little bit down on him. Certainly their turnaround lately for the Bears has largely hinged upon, making him throw less, having to run the ball more. But I still believe in what Caleb can do. I think we're due for a game where we see, the full breadth of this offense's powers. And you're going against Cincinnati, who's been so bad, giving up a 0.23 EPA per drop back, one of the worst marks in the league, 0.25 EPA per pass. If Caleb is going to be the best version of himself, this is probably it. And Odunze hasn't hit in a while, but getting 8 targets a game, 14 air yards per target. You're missing Luther Burden here, so maybe some things get interesting there for this kind of deep shot plays for somebody. I think the Bears are a really fun team today, whether you're playing Mungai with them or not.
All right. Anthony Masilli, $1.99. I did see your super chat there. Just always try to do it in the context of the show and pull them up. Believe it or not, getting better at this producing thing. So go me. Fave 3 DK stacks and Fave Contrarian stacks. Thanks. That leads us into this lower sub 5K range, Spags. I have an abnormal, disturbing amount of interest in Geno Smith today, and I think Geno Smith sucks. I'm not a Geno Smith fan by any means, but on FanDuel, you have a super cheap Jacoby Myers, Trey Tucker. On DraftKings, you have a super, I would call him cheap relative to his tags of yore, Brock Bowers at 5K coming back into our lives, somebody that's going to be pulling quite a bit of ownership. Those are 3 pretty considerate, just relative to where their prices are across sites. Geno Smith is a very interesting quarterback to me because, well, if they find success, a lot of people are not attaching Geno Smith to those stacks at 4,600. You can get the McCaffreys, the Bijan Robinsons, the expensive RBs, Jonathan Taylors of the world, and it's not too difficult. We also have a ton of expensive pass catchers. I'd be shocked if a combo of Puka, a combo of like Puka, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Jamar Chase did not have a super ceiling game, one of those 3. How do you feel about Geno Smith down here? Michael Penix, I suppose, against New England, less of a consideration for me, but Geno in particular goes into that top 3 DK stacks on the contrarian side. Maybe not my top 3 overall, but how do you feel about Geno Smith specifically getting Brock Bowers back?
Yeah, I think Geno's really interesting. I mean, one thing that I go through every week and just trying to get a read on, it's been something that's been helpful a couple of weeks ago when the Eagles had their double stack hitting when A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith entirely unknown against Minnesota. Just look at teams that have sort of a concentrated target funneling of, a few guys that pop up. And Vegas is one of those teams where you have 7 targets a game for Jacoby Myers. I know nobody's super stoked to play him at this point because he might get traded, but that can go either way. It could be a showcasing game for him. Could be something where he puts down one game to assert himself. Like, you don't know. You're getting Brock Bowers in, who also has been averaging 7 targets a game. Like, that's kind of the level of workload you're looking for at not crazy amounts of ownership. Even a Brock Bowers being, fairly chalky, or not fairly chalky, but decently owned amongst the tight ends, still single-digit ownership there. So I think going to the Geno stack with those guys is pretty interesting. Jacksonville's defense has been really good to start the year, but I think due for some regression there because they kind of run hot on interceptions more than you'd expect. But I think Geno's compelling. I actually think, for me, the approach is really just getting less Jackson Dart, more of the cheap guys. I don't like him as a player at all, but I got some Tyler Shuck. Cam Ward I do like as a player, and I think we're starting to see some upside. Even though Mike McCoy, not the greatest coach in the world, he's kind of stabilizing Cam Ward as a guy that can get you over 200 yards, and maybe he'll start to run better on touchdowns with some real value options to stack with him. I took some shots there. But it seems like sim-wise, it's just like it's Dart, it's Mac Jones coming up the most. And I like kind of spraying and praying with Geno, with with Shuck, with Ward. Like those guys are not all good quarterbacks professionally yet, but they are, I think, fantasy options that allow you to kind of get whatever you want on the slate.
Yeah, the Shuck one's interesting. I am of the mind. I mean, I've talked with a lot of different people that I really, really respect how they go about betting. And everybody I know is on the Rams 13.5, 14. Like everybody seems to be there at the moment, which, you know, we see some of these big favorites. They get a lot of public money, but kind of curious to see a lot of sharp bettors in there. Has me kind of trying to get to a little bit of Stafford. You can see on the screen, 5.3% QB +1. I mean, a lot of that is just Puka, and I'm fine with that, him coming back into our lives. But yeah, I'm with you with Tyler Shuck to some extent. We have no idea what to make of it, but he's cheap. He runs a little bit, it would appear. And we do have, I mean, Shaheed's broke how many slates over the course of the last 3 years when healthy? I know that that's a big asterisk because he's not always healthy, but like when he's out there, you know he's going go. And that's fun to throw into lineups when you know he's going to be so unowned on a slate like today.
Yeah, I mean, and you have Olave who has spiked with Rattler, and I think Rattler right now, in my opinion, is a better QB. But Shuck, they clearly saw something in him. It's one of the weird things to me where like I like Kellen Moore so much, but since they drafted Shuck, there were reports that were tying him to Jackson Dart. He went a little bit earlier and they wanted to take the QB, but he felt like such a natural fit. They like Shuck enough. They took him ahead of a lot of guys that I thought graded out better. You know, Dylan Gabriel looks like crap to start the year, but I would have taken him over Shuck. His thing is that he's old, like I think he's 26, so he should be kind of ready to step in and handle the pressure of running an offense. He just is like woefully inaccurate. Didn't throw a great catchable ball rate while playing at Louisville last year, so I don't know what you get upgrading to the pros. But if he's not going to get played, I don't know. Like I agree with you. Like I think Shuck might suck, but there's opportunity I think with cheap guys if everybody's going to be on Mahomes this week.
Shuck might suck, but he'd also have luck, and that wouldn't fuck. Anyway, Chase D's Shuck has a effing cannon. Yes, he does. Very much so. McCarthy and Jefferson, anyone? I can't do it. I really, really, really can't do it. I like Jefferson as maybe a standoff where maybe we can funnel targets to the best wide receiver in football. One game this year, Spags. One time. That would be really fun.
Yeah, I think McCarthy, like, I don't know. It feels like they're on the pathway to ruining him for whatever reason. It's surprising to see like Carson Wentz be functional in this offense to me, but McCarthy, who was really efficient at Michigan, definitely protected from his own worst tendencies really well. I want to believe he'll be okay. I think the price tag is cheap enough that if you want to take that shot, you can, but Detroit's defense has been pretty good. And Jefferson really not killing it versus man defense the way you want, with Detroit having pretty man-heavy defense splits, only 1.9 yards per outrun, much better versus a zone-heavy team with 3.2 yards per outrun there. Not that that's everything, but like, I don't know. I just like, there's other ways to spend your money, I think, even though I did take a few stabs at McCarthy this week with Jefferson in particular.
Oh, yeah. Talk data to me, baby. Oh, yeah. Oh, it's nice. Just to revisit his super chat, Fave 3 DK stacks and Fave Contrarian stacks. In the Contrarian bucket, I'll just throw my favorite. Geno Smith is the Contrarian, but favorite 3 stacks for me today. Oh, it's got to be Caleb Williams 1. I'm going to go. This is wild because I know Jared Goff is probably 2 for me, and that's wild to say out loud. I think it's wrong. I don't have to do a ton to get overweight there. That's for sure. I'll go Mahomes, Williams in like 1, 2, and then I'll go third Jared Goff just so I don't sound ridiculous. How about you, Specs?
I would say, just to give you guys again the data infused take, that's not my bias. Mahomes, Dart seem like your primary stack guys. Caleb number 3, I think, if you're going to follow sim data. For me, it would be Caleb number 1. I think, I mean, honestly, I really split QB a lot this week, but I'm trying to think who would I really want to vouch for. It's Caleb by a good margin for me, though. I did boost Stafford, did boost Goff a little, but I guess that'd be my 3. And they're all fairly contrarian too, besides Caleb.
A lot of super chats already here early in the morning. We appreciate you guys. Charles Moran, $1.99. Jones, Pittman, Warren, or Jones, Pittman, Kraft. So, Spags, Warren or Kraft in a DK GPP?
I think Kraft is a better projected play for correlation, assuming you're to spend that money, the difference in money you have. I guess it's really not a big difference in money. You should probably go with the correlation, but I do think Kraft's the better play. Like Kraft could break the slate today, I think, in the matchup he has.
Yeah, it's just absolutely Kraft has been on another planet. This guy, also South Dakota's finest. I bet he'll join me in the South Dakota Hall of Fame. How does that sound? No,
you two seem kind of similar ilk, you and Tucker Kraft. I mean, he's playing really well. Somebody mentioned this, and I really want to give the guy credit. I wish I remembered who it was, but it mentioned like one of the first videos of the year I did, and whether here or on my channels, and he was like, Tucker Kraft's the Green Bay wide receiver one. And I'm like, haha, that's silly. Like he's not even a wide receiver, and he's playing more than every one of the wide receivers. He's spiking more. You know, the wide receivers, Romeo Doubs, the only one who's topping 50 snaps a game besides Tucker Kraft out of those pass catchers. So, I don't know, like Chase didn't after he put up 34 points feels stupid, but I think it's another good spot for him. Carolina's pretty bad at defending tight ends.
Joey, I'm ignoring you on purpose. I can see you in the chat. You have the blue wrench. We can all see it. I see it. I know you're a Lions fan. I hate you. 30% off, though. He made this beautiful graphic. Promo code RICH. We got ourselves 51 minutes left in the flash sale for you to take advantage. All of our NFL packages, any of the NFL packages, 30% off. Look at that. BS Golfer 7. That's a milli. CW 279. That's a milli. A milli. That seems to be kind of what we do here over at Stokastic. And if you want to take advantage now, use code RICH. Be able to get the Sims, the power of the Sims that I'm sharing directly on screen with you here today. Sharing my top 150, my favorited 150 here directly from a standard run. And plus, there's so many fun, intricate things you can do, including the single lineup sim, including being able to save up to 300 lineups there as you're going about it. It's an incredible process here utilizing the Sims tool. And I hope you've enjoyed the first 8 weeks of it. Maybe week 9 can be your week. Any NFL package, take advantage of it. 30% off. That is code RICH in the video description box below. Crap. Now I have to click on the asset. Where is the asset?
Not in your window.
Oh. I didn't see which tab it was on. And I was like, oh man, got it right. Somehow, some way. Let's go over to running back, shall we? Because there's this guy, Jonathan Taylor. He seems like he puts up 50 million fantasy points on a day in, day out basis. But as you can see, we have Monangai, we have Travion Henderson. They're going to change the equation a little bit today. On a slate where they're not present, I think we would have saw Jonathan Taylor still pulling some ownership purely because, well, you have 2 running back lineup spots. And I know it sounds counterintuitive where it's like, hey, Eric, we just got more value. But now what you're getting is people playing that value in a bunch of lineups. Is there a world where JT ends up sub 10% on today's slate spags? That would be nuts.
Yeah, I mean, look, I got him in the semi-ran only 1%. I forced him in more before the show, got him closer to 10%. So, like, I feel okay with my exposure. And I do wonder, too, because the field does love to chase a play like this. They view certain players as infallible. They can't ever miss. I think Jonathan Taylor has risen to that level for people, but he is running really hot on touchdowns. Like he's scoring 3 a game pretty frequently while only getting about 5 red zone opportunities a game. And obviously you don't have to only score through the red zone, but like he's just running hot. And I hate pointing this stuff out because people like hate when you hear like, oh, Rashee Rice is running hot. This guy's running hot. It's like he's running hot relative to what any RB is, but it's also been a really good team. The totals continue to be strong. Going to get 28 implied points on the road against a team in Pittsburgh. It's not that good defensively this year, but historically it does carry some weight in the markets. It's really impressive. It just doesn't feel like the slate where the ownership makes sense. And then I think he probably gets jammed a little bit more by casual players. And that makes it a tough combination. But like, I'll never critique anybody playing Jonathan Taylor at this point because he's literally been in the winning lineup the vast majority of the season. But it's 9,800 now. He doesn't really add PPR points. You have to keep getting there on touchdowns. And at some point, he probably doesn't get there in a game in touchdowns.
Yeah, I'm also just highlighting what is happening here, and that is Christian McCaffrey looks completely nuclear for $1,000 less. You get $1,000 discount on a guy who isn't doing it through touchdowns, like just really not doing it through touchdowns the way that Jonathan Taylor is. This is just receiving volume and what that floor is with him. He's coming off of getting eviscerated against Houston. They completely bottled him up. Houston's defense, you better put some respect on that name because they are so damn good and get after the quarterback. And then also 3 catches, 43 for Christian McCaffrey, 8 carries, 25. I know he's been ineffective running the football this season, but like those are not Christian McCaffrey type numbers. He's facing the frickin' Giants today, friends. He is 8,800. How are you handling CMC? Yeah, you know me.
I mean, I think this is a spot, and I talked about it last week on this very show, that I thought was a pretty good spot for Saquon Barkley to get going against the Giants. They're currently, based on how I look at data, again, relying mostly on the EPA, expected points added metric, they're the worst run defense in football right now, giving up 0.16 EPA per rush. We saw them, fully get Saquon look like the most explosive version of himself. He had broken the slate basically, by halftime. Not that McCaffrey gets that level of success because it has been tough for him to run this year, but I think the run game last week, not so good. But when Kittle came back in that first week, run game was looking better. McCaffrey had the biggest holes he's had. I think this is sort of the way to get him back on track this week. And the workload's been massive for him with 27 intended touches a game, 5.4 of which more than Jonathan Taylor are inside the red zone, 2.8 of which inside the 10-yard line. The roll's too good. Like Eric mentioned, the PPR stuff is too good. And the projections right now assume the Giants keep it close. So that should only be good for McCaffrey as well. I think he's much like Monungai, different price tag. One of the strongest plays in the slate. He's in a lot of my lineups, and sim-wise, he's still getting above the field on him, even though he is massive chalk as well.
Yeah, it's hard to get away from this kind of volume, this kind of opportunity. That's as simple as it gets. But now let's get into the if he goes off, people are going to lose their minds. We got Bijan Robinson at 8,700, and I think he is a fantastic tournament play to some extent today. The Sims don't feel the same way, but we do get a New England spot where New England offensively is getting things done with Drake May. Everybody's going to point to the fact that nobody's gotten over 50 rushing yards against New England, but it completely negates the main appeal, I think, of Bijan Robinson relative to anybody else is also what he can do in the passing game. And Michael Penix back, very small difference to some people. It is pretty large based on what we saw from Kirk Cousins against Miami. It was not great. And Michael Penix has struggled to a certain extent this season, but he's got deep play capabilities. He's also just, I think, better at this stage, which is wild to say. I hate to say it about Kirk Cousins, but just based on what you saw against Miami, it is not good times for him. I think it's a big upgrade getting him back relative to last week, and it's not necessarily showing up in projections or anything else. We'll get to that a little at the wide receiver and tight end position as well with Mr. Pitts. And Darnell Mooney, I don't even want to talk about it, but let's get to Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs. Both of them, we know the kind of ceilings they can have. Are you getting different off of any Taylor CMC or specifically CMC?
So I did try to get some Bijan lineups in, some with CMC, some went out. I agree that this is the week. If after a guy failed so miserably as chalk the previous week, going back to that guy, knowing he has an explosive ceiling, I think is something you want to do. And, like Eric mentioned, we saw, I think it was the first week of the year where Bijan had 100 yards receiving in a game where he got bottled up entirely in the run game. This is how the team tries to get him the ball. Usually when things are running normally with Penix and it's not Kirk Cousins trying to get the ball downfield. Michael Penix has a sort of gunslinger ethos, which is part of why I like him. The reality is he throws to the RB a lot more than Cousins did, who kept trying to force the ball downfield, made awful play after awful play, missed Mooney a bunch of times. It was really a disaster, but he just didn't check it down to the RB enough. And I think for Bijan, this is what you get back to get him right this week. And for New England, even though they do defend the run really well, this is a staple of Vrabel teams. They don't defend the pass super well. They defend the run really well. That's been the case going back to Tennessee, I think from the first year he became a coach. This is a New England team now. It's giving up a 20% target rate to RBs per route run. So that's something where you're getting significantly more than league average for a guy who's already getting 6 targets a game. So I think Bijan, he doesn't come up at all in the sim. So let's say that the data does not support playing him. But I think just the game theory of a guy who just killed everybody last week, if he goes for 40, you're going to get him at no ownership compared to any other week where you get him at least some ownership.
Let's actually talk about the ownership now, because normally this is where we'd go through some tournament options in the 6-5K range, but I think it's a little disingenuous on this slate specifically because of what we have in terms of ownership and exposure. Look at my top 150. It is just all Kyle Monungai. It's very, very difficult to imagine a world where Kyle Monungai is not that dude. We also have Travion Henderson, 38.7% ownership. We do have one running back that the Sims really like to get different with in Jaylen Warren, and we will get there. But Monungai, Henderson, those two specifically, they are so cheap, 4,600 and 4,900 respectively, and they just get a lot more opportunity with the absence of Ramondre Stevenson and the absence of DeAndre Swift, plus Roschon Johnson out there. Travis Homer hasn't played offensive snaps. He's been more of a special teamer. He does have passing game involvement going back to his Seattle Seahawks days, but I don't think that's going to deter Ben Johnson from just having Monungai out there nonstop today. How much is too much of these guys? How do you handle them in large field, small field? Talk to me about how you're doing or how you're dealing with your lineups with Monangai and Henderson today.
So I tried to get more of these guys together. I mean, sim-wise, I got 98% Monangai on the sim I just ran now with no interference on my end. Before the show, I got him down to more like 85%, and I think that number feels about right to me. We're still in a lot of lineups, but I did get some, Caleb stacks that fade him, some lineups with just Henderson, not including him. But I really think this is a week, and I'm not really a big preseason, was not big on Monangai, but he's kind of won me over as the year goes on, and I think that's important to couch that. This isn't like my priors coming to roost here.
Yeah.
Travion Henderson, same thing. Just thought people were way too into him. He got steamed up so much in terms of like best ball ADPs. And he's like, okay, like he's really athletic, but he doesn't miss tackles. That's kind of a bad combination usually. Compared to a guy like Jahmyr Gibbs, who got compared to so much. Like Gibbs is crazy fast, crazy athletic. He also misses tackles 25% of the time, 33% of the time, somewhere in that range. That's not been Henderson. But like now you're talking about him. Like I think this is his show and prove it week against an Atlanta defense that's also not very good versus the run, giving up a 0.08 EPA per rush. So the two cheap guys at RB, I think, is the move. I got Henderson more than the sim is giving me, 42%. I got him closer to 66. Took Monangai at 85%, like I mentioned. I'm just going to load up on these guys and then just try to get the best ceiling pieces around them and hope it hits.
I'm with you. It's unavoidable to some extent, but this is kind of where I want to like strip a little bit of the McCaffrey and turn it to Bijan, strip a little bit of what would be Chase Puka and get a little to Jonathan Taylor. I think there's just massive ceilings. And the one thing about RBs is that Jonathan Taylor is going to get the ball handed to him 20 times barring injury. So like you can predict so much touch volume. There's so many things that can happen when you just get the opportunity. And it's just easier for me to look at it at Jonathan Taylor and CMC and Bijan and those guys, as opposed to some of the wide receivers where I think there are so many good wide receiver plays this week to get different in tournaments. Chase and Puka are the cream of the crop, but they're expensive relative to the positions. And well, if you want to get to them, Monangai and Henderson are the path. And that's kind of the way that you have to go about things today. $5 super chat rolls in here. Zach McMurray, $5. Hey fellas, good luck today. Good luck to you as well. How many uniques do you recommend on a day like today with crazy value, Monangai, Henderson, etc.? What a great question that you have here is if you go into the Sims, obviously we can go to the main lineups page here. We have the favorite. You could go to difference on uniques, but one thing that kind of happens just by default here in the Sims is you're still going to get more than like 2-3 uniques between the lineups. Like I can look at this: Raiders, Giants, Broncos. There's 3 differentiating pieces in my top 4 lineups. You also have Juwan Jennings. I don't see him above here. I see Wan'Dale Robinson. I don't see him in either of these. So already you have like 2 uniques rolling around throughout these, because the uniques is basically just guaranteeing that you get at least two different pieces in the lineup as you're moving down the line. I think it's really interesting when it comes to showdown stuff to be able to go in and have the 2 uniques. I know Tom, our CEO, when he hit the 100K plus, him and Rich Green on our projections team hit that lineup. It ended up being one where he had 100 lineups that he made with 2 uniques, or actually 3 uniques to start, and then 2 uniques. So it still stayed above the simulated ROI threshold over here. But I don't really give it too much thought when it comes to building for the main slates, because it kind of happens by default. Spags, do you have anything to add?
It just depends on what your diversification is. Like I know Loughy mentioned 5 uniques that he was using to kind of show or I think about how he's playing it, but also show it on stream. To me, the biggest thing is like how many uniques can you get in while still getting positive ROI lineups and whatever group of lineups you're selecting. So if you're playing a 20 max, 5 uniques might be enough. If you're playing 150 max or a bunch of them, putting in 5 uniques might not be feasible because then you'll get a bunch of negative ROIs. So just go to the favorites tab and then just see if at the bottom if there are negative lineups. And I think for me, like, again, if you want to be more concentrated, less uniques, if you want to be more spread out and be willing to have more lineups that potentially lose, more uniques. But I think it's kind of personal preference. I'll vary from 3 to 5, though, on most slates.
Yeah, so you can definitely mix around with it there quite a bit. Obviously, I'm pushing and pulling and doing a lot of different things on my side that allow for me to get the diversification that I'm looking for. And obviously, you can always double check that. Just in the ROI boost tab and kind of seeing what your exposure on the top 150 is. So like 96 Monangai, that makes sense there. I went to the 4 uniques and obviously it's stripped down from around 30% Mahomes if you were watching on screen to around 22. It's just spreading out the lineups a lot more. So now I have a lot more Stafford where he's slightly overweight. I'm at the field on Mac Jones. These are things that I don't necessarily have, in my personal pool here at the moment, but the push and pull of that as you go to, something where it's going to have like 2 uniques. It's still going to just be all Patrick Mahomes when it's all said and done. So if you want to trim down on some of your Mahomes exposure, that is one easy way to do it, as opposed to just going in ROI boosting or doing anything different. But as you can see, a lot of Mahomes, because of how well he is simming out, that is going to be something that changes as you're changing through your unique. So lots of things to be thinking about. And obviously we love that super chat. It is good times to be able to talk process. I love talking process more than just like, here are the plays, even though I'm literally like the guy who's talking about plays.
You're not talking about Lindy's process likes and locks. You're talking about your lean. I guess that'd be Lean's likes and process. But either way, you're portraying your brand.
Shut up.
You shut up.
Okay, I will, you dirty whore. Let's go to running back, finishing it out here. What do you think about Jaylen Warren? Because this is a guy that also the Sims are a big fan of, and I can't really blame them. But 40%, 47.3% Jaylen Warren. That's a spicy meatball. Do you expect Arthur Smith to be able to have the game plan against Indy here, where offensively we're expecting points, and it is what it is, but 5,500 Jaylen Warren in nearly 50% of lineups, my second highest running back in this 150 set. I believe he's my third highest running back overall as I'm looking at my actual set. What are you planning here with Jaylen Warren, Spags?
Yeah, I got a good amount of Jaylen Warren. I feel like he's the RB you get when you're not getting the other RBs who you might like a little bit more. And I did try to go out of my way to not get Tyrone Tracy as much. Still got him at 18%, but which I guess based on the latest data is going to be pretty close to the field. But I like Jaylen Warren the most out of that group of guys. That's not, some of the chalky, cheap guys and the expensive guys we talked about who we like a lot. I think that for Jaylen Warren, what stands out is that this Colts defense, to me, maybe not as good as it might seem with the results they've been getting. Still pretty soft versus the run. Overall, 0.06 EPA per run play allowed towards the bottom of the league. There's stuff in the run of the league average rate, but Jaylen Warren's been really good. He's plus EPA per run and pass, missing tackles at a 24% clip in the run game, a 74% clip in the pass game, which is crazy given the fact that he gets about 4 targets a game. I think Jaylen Warren's been really good, and the matchup should be competitive. So bad game script, he probably gets there through passing and more receptions. Good game script, getting a touchdown seems likely. I think for Warren, he's a good play, and I just really hate Tyrone Tracy. Like I think that I got him a little bit because the data makes you get him a little bit, and I get it, and I don't want to be like, I know better. But like he's a guy that lost his role. They then fell out of favor entirely because like he was bitching for touches. I would much rather have Jaylen Warren, who's in the good graces of Aaron Rodgers. You know how hard that is? He hates everybody, and he loves Jaylen Warren. I think those things matter a little bit. So I like Jaylen Warren a good amount. Tyrone Tracy, you get, but I don't want to as much.
So Tex, the dynamic duo of DFS, and you too, Eric, hashtag puppet.
My dog brought a squeak toy in, so if we're queuing up the puppet, I'm not ready because I don't want the squeak toy to be on mic.
That was a beautiful Freudian slip for all Twins fans. I wish it was a pucket. Then that'd be great. That's good.
He's a pucker it more so.
Wow. Well, technically he's dead, but he's not anything.
Oh, I meant the puppet.
Oh, gotcha. There we go. That got dark. Here we are. Let's go back to running back. Any other tournament plays that are standing out for you? Because Kyren Williams, where to get it? Kyren Williams against New Orleans, massive favorites here. I'm just worried that you could see more Blake Corum if this game gets completely berserk, and I want my running backs on the field all the time. David Montgomery, Chase Brown, not really pulling any type of ownership. We've talked about the Bijan and Taylor thing where the Sims very much against it. Again, I'm going to come up a little bit here on the Bijan in large field. In small field, I'm going to kind of stick with the CMCs that I'm, the rivers and the lakes that I'm used to, but Kamani Vidal with no Haskins there. Jahmyr Gibbs in a timeshare, but obviously a nuclear game potential in a dome anytime that Detroit's lacing him up there. And Chase Brown, if you don't play Monangai, which again is a big if and not something I'm going to do a lot, maybe you just have a pass-heavy game script on the Kalen Williams side. I do think Chase Brown's like an interesting piece in those lineups that you go Williams, Odunze, Loveland, Chase Brown as opposed to Monangai. I think that's something that you could actually put together in large field that could win you $1 million today. But any tournament plays that you've got your eye on that you want to give a shout out to at running back?
Again, to Chase Brown, so your point, I think there, like Flacco's shoulder being messed up, and it's his throwing shoulder, which I don't know how he's playing. It spooks me a little bit about Jamar Chase, even though I'm fully being a lemon going off the cliff with Jamar Chase. Do you think that could be something that benefits Chase Brown a little bit more? So I'm with you conceptually on that. But in terms of like my guys that I liked a little bit more, I mean, Kamani Vidal, I think is very much worth the 11% ownership he has. Got a little bit more at 16% for myself. I think that's a good number for him. I think he might be the strongest play that I'm kind of omitting in favor of trying to chase these Travion Henderson and Kyle Mungai kind of builds. But I think for Vidal, good game script. The workload's been fantastic for him. And you have nobody really threatening for touches besides, the super successful pass game they have where the points could come there. But if they do, then you probably get Kamani Vidal getting there and getting a lot of touches late. So I think he's probably the best pivot out of the group. I've spoken ill of Tyrone Tracy enough. I think Kyron Williams fits the game total, game script stuff we're looking for. That was sort of it. Got a little bit of Kareem Hunt, but not a crazy amount. Just kind of feels like to me consolidating around the mostly chalk RBs, but also just heavying up on Henderson and Mungai even more. That's just how I'm going to live and die this week, unfortunately.
Tyrone Tracy, any kind of take there? He's a little bit overweight in the Sims here. I'm at the field at 15%, and I'm just fine with that.
I mean, look, so one of my beliefs this week is that the Giants, who are coming up a ton projection-wise, I think they might crater. Like, I think Scatterbo meant a lot to them. I mean, maybe they're motivated to do something in favor of him. The total is pretty good at 23 implied points, relative to Giants totals. And, we had I think the center, there was a photo of him. He came in with a Scatterbo shirt. Like, maybe it motivates him. I don't think like not having him out there is going to be helpful. Like, I think his kind of style of play, the fact that he kept breaking big plays, the fact that he would put his head in and hit guys, and like there's an energy he brought that I don't think Tyrone Tracy brings. And I know we saw Tracy be good last year. I get why a projection set would like him. And this is the human component that you want to rely on data for, so you don't get inspired too much by it negatively. But I just don't think that Tracy's that guy. And last week too, when they brought him in, played 33 snaps, but still had Singletary playing 8 in that game. And then were a lot of high leverage spots where Singletary came in. If Tracy doesn't play well, I think he might, end up off the field. So not a big fan of his. Don't think he's as good as Scatterbo. And at this point, I just don't think that he's a guy that I want to live and die by this week.
Yeah, we talked about Kyron Williams as well, Eric Goodwin, just giving that a shout because when you see 13.5 point totals, again, I just get a little bit worried this might be a spot that they go to a little bit more quorum. We've seen that in like extreme blowouts where, you don't necessarily have to push Kyron to the full max here. So got me a little bit worried there, Spags, but Kyron Williams wouldn't shock me if he had a good game against New Orleans. But the one thing that they're good at, DVOA 12th against the run. So not even good. It's the only thing they're above average at as a football team, the New Orleans Saints, is stopping the run.
Yeah. Red zone too. They shut it down pretty well. A negative 0.5 EPA per red zone rush, one of the better marks in the league. So I don't think Kyron's a bad play. I'm flat with the field on him, but I don't think that you're doing anything too sneaky there.
All right, let's get ourselves to wide receiver. Obviously, check out Tails too while we're at it, because there's so many great bets that you can just go to tails.bet and tails.bet/Lindy, where I've got all of my stuff fired up, pick 'em, bets, everything for you that you could possibly want there in the NBA, NFL streets. And hey, MLB, how about the Dodgers yesterday, Spags? That was awfully fun. I had an awesome MLB betting season. It's been my best betting sport now the last 3 years. I have no idea why, because it's the only sport I didn't play of them. And NBA, I feel like, is my best, but you can just get so much more volume down in the NBA. MLB, when you're betting home runs, hopefully you're not betting full units, 2 units on home run plays. Whereas, that's something that'll show up quite frequently for me in the NBA streets. But MLB was awesome. Congrats to your Dodgers. I'm assuming you're a Dodgers fan.
Well, I grew up a Yankees fan, but I don't really root for anything anymore. I did watch the game, though, and I was rooting for the Dodgers in the game, not just for the Kendrick Lamar Drake reasons, even though I think now after the fact, good, because Drake was talking shit to Ohtani. That's rude. The Dodgers, I know people don't want to see the big budget team win. The fact the Blue Jays took it that far down the line, we're literally 1 out away from winning it. I think that's the fun part of baseball, is that the Dodgers spend $1 billion just on their Japanese guys, not including the million other players they have that are amazing. It seems unfair, and yet the Blue Jays, probably the win probability was through the roof until Miguel Rojas with the home. That was crazy.
Plus 1350 yesterday, Miguel Rojas to hit a home run, batting ninth.
Hilarious.
Thought there was some pinch hit potential there, and I'm a little surprised that they didn't pinch hit for him in the 9th there, but he had been making contact, and you're looking for a base runner. Well, they got one better than that. That's for sure. Just put the run on the board. Probably the best World Series that I can ever remember watching. And, wife, family, at least Dodger fans and things of that nature. But it's not $1 billion. NFL packages here at Stokastic, 30% off. Use code RICH. That would be fantastic because, well, we can help you guys win $1 million here. Not guaranteed, obviously, but definitely one of those things where we can help you build the best possible lineups to give you the best chance to finish at the top of the leaderboards there. You can see on your screen 2 million winners. I would love to make that a third today. So let's do that. 30% off, code RICH. Last time I'll throw that out there, but you got 26 more minutes to take advantage of this flash sale. Do it, do it, do it. To the wide receiver position we go. And let's start expensive like we kind of do normally. There's not like a mega chalk situation at wide receiver. If you just look at the pool ownership, we have Chase and Nacua, but wouldn't you know, they are your 2 most expensive ones that are showing up here. Puka is just assumed to be back to his normal role, which I think is the correct assumption. You give Puka Nacua the chance to get better, and now you have to take on a Saints team that just can't stop you or me in the passing game. Jamar Chase is in that nuclear game environment here against Chicago. Do you have a preference between these two? Because the Sims, pretty split between them.
Yeah, I got more of Puka than Chase, and my lineup set, I did force more Chase in there because a lot of what I'm building is based upon the concept of Chicago and Bengals game stacks being the move. But I like Puka a lot. I mean, I think that he's kind of, let's say, a forgotten man in the slate because he's still projected for 22% ownership. I think people are forgetting because he did miss the 1 week, and then he had the half a game where he got hurt. He still was the best receiver in football and on a historic pace and commanding targets at a rate that's pretty insane. 11 targets per game, 37% target per out run, which is pretty much dead even with where he was last year. So even introducing Devontae Adams in and replacing Cooper Kupp with the guy who's a little bit, still got more juice, that hasn't hurt Puka at all. So I think for Puka, he's a really solid play. I'm happy to get him or Chase. I just think I'm taking the shot with Chase more because I expect Chicago to put up a lot of points. And Flacco being in, I should be more worried about that shoulder because AC sprain in the throwing shoulder, that's where we're pushing it a little bit. But I kind of just pushed my chips in with Chase, and I'm getting more than the field there. But 30%, if you're with the field on that, great. I think if you push it to 40, 50, I don't think it feels that bad either.
Yeah, it's just fine by me to go 40, 50 here on these guys. We have the running back value that showed up from the clouds with, Travion Henderson, with Kyle Monangai. And as such, your push and pull effect is that you should probably be getting to more Nacua and Chase in large field. Small field, I'm probably going to be on the side of Chase purely because of how much Caleb Williams I have. And that kind of gets me a little bit worried that maybe Nacua ends up being lower owned than we're expecting, but he's already the lower owned of the two options. I think in large field, I definitely like the Nacua side. And in small field where I'm playing some of those more calculated Caleb Williams stacks, I like the run back of Jamar Chase. But Rashee Rice has been a huge part of this Kansas City offense right from the get-go. You got Amon-Ra St. Brown here as well at 8,300, kind of amidst everything. If it's not in a Jerry Goff stack, it's not going to be coming along with me there. So some of those Goff stacks I alluded to earlier, that's definitely Amon-Ra St. Brown and a cheap Jameson Williams. Rome Odunze, big part of my lineups, more so than the 10%, 5% here because, well, I really need that game to go completely nutty. That would be great. Cortland Sutton, Drake London as well. We've got a lot of 6K, 7K, 8K. I guess there's one 7K wide receiver here in Rashee, and he's quite popular and should be. But who are your favorites in this range, Spags?
I mean, I like Rashee Rice as much as anybody. The fact that, he's been so good, I do think he's another guy running too hot, getting 3.5 intended red zone opportunities a game, 3 of which are inside the 10-yard line. There has been no receiver, I think, that I can recall in the last 7 years of doing this kind of data aggregation and work that's been that high over the course of a year. So it's got to come down. That said, his role is 2.7 air yards per target. It's a lot of shovel passes, almost plays that are like a run play. And with Pacheco being gone, he might get even more work. So I don't want to fade Rashee Rice. I do worry, though, he might be more like a 33% play because people love Rashee Rice and think that he is infallible. And I think that he is playing like a guy who is getting a lot of great work, but at a certain point where he's got to involve himself more. Hollywood, Kelsey, they all kind of have to have bigger days. Dog, please. She loves Rashee Rice and is not like I'm bashing his heater. Let me take the squeak toy.
Yep. You need to speed on over there like Rashee Rice. No? Anyone? I thought that was funny. Oh my. No.
I won't put it in my mouth for the
Spags.
bit.
Spags, no. No barks. No barks, Spags. All right. We don't even have Puppet Lindquist. We have Puppet Monkey doing whatever else. Anyway, continuing on. Kareem Hunt, Brashard Smith expected to split carries in week 9. 4,200 Brashard Smith. Not for me.
No Brashards. I mean, he might score a touchdown today, but that's not like a DFS play for the week for the main slate.
Not going to be either for me here as well. My favorite in this range, Roma Dunze, talked about him. I don't think there's anything else to add. As we move into this range, the 6K and below, Lad McConkey at a flat 6K, seeing some spots that really like him a lot more than I do. You get Quentin Johnston, really low receiving yard numbers there, but also we're starting to see Trey Harris mix in a lot more, which has been a little bit annoying. So used to just be like a 3-headed monster. Now it's like 3.75 headed monster. I don't know. Trey Harris is not a monster. He's just out there living his life. T. Higgins, 5,900, please. Maybe a little bit here. We have so many tournament options, but I want to highlight Xavier Worthy because is there a world where you stack him up absent Rashee Rice today? Because nobody, Spags, nobody is going to do that. And I think it's extremely viable to go to the Xavier Worthy, Kelsey, and just say, hey, touchdown expectation, like Rashee Rice, he's sitting basically even money everywhere. I'm pretty invested in that, but like, I really like the idea of some Mahomes without him.
No, I think it's interesting. I mean, I think in particular, if you're going to go with him and Kelsey, I think that's your way to try to get leverage. Especially if Rice ends up like 20% pretty chalky. If he does end up like mega chalk, and I do think with some of the ownership we've seen for guys where the data, the small sample size, like makes them look, unflinchingly good, unfadably good. I think the field will want to play that guy more. So I think that's a compelling way to do it. I am lower on Mahomes, so I'm kind of naturally a little bit lower on Worthy as well. But I do think that as a play, like I think it makes a lot of sense. And again, the sim loves Mahomes. So like I'm just trying to make a stand to get away from one thing. But I think just trying to play Mahomes and maybe a little bit less Rice, I think that's a totally logical thing to do, especially in a 150, but even in a 20 max.
Are you on the DK Metcalf train with the Sims?
Yeah, I got him 20%, which feels like a lot, but he's 5,500. And really for Pittsburgh, should be a game script where you expect them to have to put up a little more passing production because Indianapolis, nobody can stop them at any point, it seems. And Pittsburgh's defense has shown no ability to do that for much worse teams. So I think Metcalf makes a lot of sense. Not getting the targets I would love to have normally for a guy that, should be your alpha target earner. 6.3 a game's a little low. 0.9 the red zone, fine. I think he's good. I wish he were better. I feel like DK Metcalf in this kind of role should be a guy that spikes more regularly, but getting 20% of him at his price tag feels like a pretty easy thing to do.
Okay. It's just one that I'm torn on whether or not there's one lineup specifically where I can kind of just go 2v2, go that direction in 3 max. Feel like I'm going to do it. I'll probably play the Metcalf side of things. I have to play Parker Washington, which we'll talk about in a second, but 4K range here as we're moving into it. Jameson Williams, I brought him up earlier, 4,800, completely uninvolved. Different play calling, obviously, but he got paid. It's just so weird to see him at 4,800, and nobody's going to be clicking on him. It's just Jameson Williams still. Trey Tucker at 4,800, I think, in my Geno stacks, definitely something that I want to be invested in. Alec Pierce, Josh Downs. Wouldn't shock me to see either of them have ceiling games at any point in time. Alec Pierce, more of your downfield burner. Josh Downs kind of does a little bit of everything, but Jawan Jennings, 4,300. Another stand that the Sims are really making here. I don't mind that. I don't mind a couple of Mooney shots. I don't mind some Darius Slayton as well. Wan'Dale Robinson and Darius Slayton, probably going to be your main two there that I want to be going with. Theo Johnson's pulling a lot of ownership at tight end, and I'm worried if he ends up being the cash game tight end that people end up playing a lot more of him in large field tournaments as well. So kind of trying to be very conscious of how I'm deploying the Theo Johnson lineups. I think Darius Slayton coming along for the ride. makes some sense in some of those Jackson Dart doubles, but you probably noticed Jackson Dart I'm not as high on as the field is in tournaments for this week. You got to make a stand somewhere in life. Are you making a stand with any of these 4K wide receiver Spags?
The JMO thing, I would say I get. I think people might chase that a little bit more than you should, because John Morton had the quote, the offensive coordinator for Detroit, saying like basically he's not getting the ball enough. It's all his fault. He talks to JMO, like going to try to get it right. I think people will chase that, and that could mean for JMO, that could just mean getting one long pass play that converts, getting an end zone target he didn't get before. People always interpret like these coach quotes as like, it means this guy's gonna have the biggest day of his career. And in reality, it could just be that they give him a little bit more than he's had, which is not very much. A low target per out run rate, not a lot of great targets overall, getting deep shots, but not hitting on them. Really, he just has to hit on the deep shots he's getting and he'll look better. But I don't think he's a play like I want to go out of my way to get nuts about, because I think he will buy into the narrative a little bit too much. But I think he's an okay play. Really nobody I'm going nuts for here. Got Juwan Jennings the most. I kind of hate Juwan Jennings with Mac Jones. Wish it were a Brock Purdy start, because Mac Jones locks on to Kendrick Bourne way more than it feels like he should. But Jennings had 7 targets last game. There's a role there, especially if the Giants stay in that game. So I don't think Jennings is a bad play. I, much like you, got Slayton a little bit. Did take some shots on the under 4K guys, DK and Ayumanor, just because Tennessee, I think, is looking better to me. Even though I'm not a huge believer in the coaching they have there, it does look better. The results look better. And now you have no Ridley again, and 2 guys that are starting to look more like professional receivers. I think they're worth the looks. Diami Brown, I think there's a lot of value plays you can get to if you really are trying to jam in all the studs.
Any Coleman love for you? 4,500, 5,300 Shakir, somebody that's showing up a little bit more for me.
I did not get much of either this week, because Josh Allen, just that price tier for me at QB was sort of a move deliberately away from. But I do think Shakir is the best option there. Coleman, they're trying to trade for guys that would replace him. So I don't think that's a great sign. He's still out there a lot right now. If Josh Palmer were healthy, I don't think it'd be good for him right now. But it is, a rubber meets the road spot. So if you like Coleman, it's probably your best shot to get it in good, because he's got to show them something, or else he might literally lose his job next week.
Yeah, the Ravens secondary week 1, Keon Coleman almost was able to sell people on the fact that he was going to potentially have a big year. It was just kind of smoke and mirrors. Parker Washington, yes, that's my favorite guy, sub 4K by quite a lot. 3,700. I keep landing on that number in some of the builds in the single lineup sim, just over and over and over again. 3,700, just kind of a necessity for me. And Hunter Henry's there at tight end. I don't really like that look against Atlanta. They've been really good against that position, but I do feel as though it's one of those spots where Parker Washington, if he gets steamed up north of like 12%, 10% in some of these small fields, I'm going to probably be kicking myself, but I think it's actually pretty live to happen with no Travis Hunter out there, Spags.
Yeah, I mean, Parker Washington should pick up a lot of the snaps coming out of the slot for him, so that's a positive. I think Diami Brown could gain similarly, though he's been banged up kind of like he's always been, and that could be a little bit risky, but I actually like both those guys. To me, Diami Brown and Parker Washington / Ayumanor and DK, worth more of a look. DK looked like he was going to be like potentially sim chalk this week, and now because of the Monon guy ownership opening up, like that's not anywhere near the case. But I think DK, still in the mix. Like Zacchaeus too, around the industry.
Yes.
People like. You got a lot of guys under 4K that I don't know if you want to put them in every lineup, but you should probably have like 5 to 10 of.
Yeah, the amount of times that Zacchaeus, I pull up like his routes run and I pull up his snap share, it's just shocking sometimes. Week 6, 84% of the snaps. That's an outlier. I don't think that's going to happen again. But 52 and 60%, he's kind of routinely been in that 45 to 60% number. And at 3,300 in this game environment, that's definitely something that you might want to bring along for the ride in some tournament lineups. Definitely would not want to play him in cash. So if you're looking at a cash game play that you need to play in this range, Parker Washington would be it, because there's a lot of people who are going to want to play CMC plus Chase plus Puka. And I think the only way to do that is probably going to the Theo Johnson, Parker Washington combo. And I think that's a much better combo than going to Zacchaeus.
Yeah, for cash, 100%.
Yep, wanted to talk through that because I'm playing a little bit of cash this week as I'm back on my bad shit. Arcathelza, why is Coleman's fault? Allen doesn't throw on the ball. Because Allen knows he sucks.
He doesn't get open. He doesn't get separation. He doesn't get open. Like that's the problem. You could make the case like just feed every guy contested catches, and sometimes that's a DeAndre Hopkins type. That's his whole career. Yeah. But Coleman's actually not that good at contested catches either, unfortunately.
Yeah, he's not Megatron out there. Let's just throw that out there. My God, yeah, you got to win in that. And that's what Khalil Shakira can do for the people. Let's get to tight end here and then defense and then get the heck up out of here. This really comes down to, for me, how you handle Brock Bowers, because Brock Bowers, days of yore, completely nuclear. But Pete Carroll, the Michael Mayer thing freaks me out a little bit. Do they kind of ease him back? What's kind of the Brock Bowers stand that you've got for today? Because Sims are pretty neutral, and I'm having a tough time not being north of 10%.
Yeah, I think I ended up just confirming here in my final thing. So I went above the field by a little bit. I got 16. Bowers, 10%ish feels like a fine enough number. That's what I got in the Stokastic sim as well. So I went a little bit above because I'm enthusiastic for him as a concept. The price tag's low. I mean, this is a guy that was at one point pretty close to the 1-2 turn in best ball ADPs in the offseason. Mostly that was going like middle of the second towards the end of the second round, but like was going ahead of a lot of guys, getting ahead of Trey McBride. For Bowers, the talent's still big. I agree that just because he's healthy now doesn't mean he fully displaces Michael Mayer, who they did like is that inline blocker. I don't see why Bowers getting healthy would change that. But I do think one thing that's happening for the Raiders right now is that you have to see what you have in Bowers. You've seen without him how this offense runs. It's not very good. So now why don't you build the plane out of Brock Bowers a little bit more and see what you get? I would hope that's the logic here, but at 10% ownership, I think you're kind of getting that buy-in appropriately from the field. It's just like if he's good, you're not going to get 5K Brock Bowers very often. If he's what he was earlier in the year, you might get $4,500 4K Brock Bowers because the role is good per route, but it's not good in terms of the holistic value of a game.
That was perfectly said, like absolutely perfectly said. Theo Johnson, what are we doing here? Because he ends up being somebody that overall pulls just north. I'm double the field here at the moment in this 150. My set has right around 18%. Kind of brought up the issue earlier. If Jackson Dart's everybody's cash game quarterback, he is mine. I feel as though we're going to run into a spot where Theo Johnson ownership could get well north of this 12% number, especially because if you're trying to get to those super ceilings, the McCaffreys to the Jonathan Taylors, not, in the Sims for Jonathan Taylor, but for sure Puka Nacua and Jamar Chase, Theo Johnson's like a must. Like it's so hard to find anything else that I really like sub 4K other than Colston Loveland, who I'm taking some shots on. What are you planning for Theo Johnson today? Because I'm very nervous about his ownership.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, anytime the cash game and you get the shitty plays in a cash game coming up, like Theo Johnson seems like one of the shitty plays in a cash game that just allows you to get to the more important players. That always spooks me a little bit. The fact that Dart is also your cash game QB. I don't like his stack partners as much as a result because the way that people try to get unique is by stacking up Dart. And in reality, they're already coming up the projection set as part of a game stack with the Niners. So I'm with the field on Theo. I still think he's talented. I think he's looked better with Jackson Dart as QB. We've seen more touchdown upside. He's more involved. And, there's still targets to go around in that offense. But Wandale's, I think, pretty well owned. Theo's pretty well owned. If you were to fade the Giants entirely today, I wouldn't begrudge it because I don't know. I think the total's not bad. So Vegas builds casinos for this reason. It feels a little high for a team that's losing what I thought was the heart of the team and a catastrophic injury. That's not usually the spot I want to buy in the next week personally, even though I get what the data would.
I don't even think he's my favorite tournament tight end named Johnson. I think Juwan Johnson is 3,200 and is a really, really good tournament play. We have no idea what to make of this Shuck character, but I can tell you one thing. Juwan Johnson is somebody who's on the field a lot and has been involved in the passing game a lot and is super cheap, and nobody is going to click on him at all. We don't know what to make of Olave or Rashid Shaheed, but I would tell you one thing. Tight ends are your friend if you're trying to get the ball out fast against the Rams.
I was actually going to say tight ends are like a shitty rookie or a shitty backup QB's best friend as well.
Agreed.
So yeah, a couple things there that would be helpful. I'm with you on it. I think Juwan Johnson, not a super exciting play, but I got 5% of him. Fields at 4. So I'm taking a stand in favor of him, but he's good. I think that there are better tight end situations. Look, if you could find money to pay for Tucker Kraft, please do that. If you could find money to pay for Brock Bowers, I would take that shot. But I think in terms of dumpster dive guys, rolling the dice with a Juwan Johnson, a Chig. I think if you want to play some gross Cam Ward or even without him, a Loveland, Komet coming back in today is not great. You got a shot there. I know the deeper dive guys talked about Hawkinson. You can make a case here to just not play Theo and spread the ownership between these guys because Theo might get overowned for a guy who could give you 5 today and it wouldn't be shocking.
Yeah. Oh, I'm having a really tough time here. We have 7 minutes? Good. Only 7 minutes to be able to figure out exactly how to go about the Theo Johnson thing. But I think I'm going to just play him in one of the main 3 lineups that I've got for the 3 max. I think in 150 sets, I'm probably going to be, I'm still going to be overweight, but definitely going to be south of the 20% number when it's all said and done and finishing this up. Any other tight end you want to give a special shout out to? Because again, Tucker Kraft confirmed good at the footballs.
I do want to point to this chat from our old pal Rinpack. Glad to see him in chat.
Let's go.
Tyler Shuck and Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields in the same high school graduating class.
Stop it.
That's
Stop
a real
really?
fact.
That's absurd, actually.
It's crazy because like Trevor Lawrence is on his second contract now. Like he's making the what 160 million on this. He's making a lot of money.
$100 billion.
Yeah, basically. But yeah, Shuck, I don't get it. Like the college numbers, I didn't get it. How he's played so far, I don't get it. But you gotta try something, I guess.
Yeah, so many angles. This is the funnest slate of the year building tournament lineups. Yeah, I think it's a great tournament slate. Tyler Warren, did we talk about him at all? Also, just unfadeable on any given slate for me. I'm right around 12%.
Yeah, I think we just might have skipped over the top most, or I might have skipped over the most expensive guys. Kraft, I got 15% of. Warren, I got 15% of. Gadsden, I guess the field's at 6%. I don't know if I buy that. I think Gadsden's going to be like 10. But I'm at 6% Gadsden, trying to be under the field on him, even though I'm technically with him. I think these guys were all solid enough plays. There isn't one that separates. For my hand build stuff, though, I did try to go Kraft over Warren. So, but there's a lot of good plays. Like tight end, I think there's a lot of good plays. No great plays this week, which I think there have been a few weeks lately with that. It's felt like we've had a few great plays.
Yeah, we've had our great plays are cheap running backs, and I know that sounds counterintuitive, but that's what we're dealing with on our slate. Is like cheap running backs are where you're finding the best value, the best plays, and then expensive wide receiver. It's like this is like a flip the build kind of week for me too, where there's some Bijan McCaffrey lineups that I think I'm kind of figuring out exactly which one I want to deploy in which tournament here to finish out. But yeah, there's just so many ways to go about it. And tight end, usually it's just like attaching to the pass catcher. I'm playing Kraft independently, Warren independently, Bowers independently, Kittle independently, Kelsey independently, Pitts independently. Like I'm playing so many of these guys without their quarterbacks. It's absurd.
Yeah, I don't think it has to be a stacked up tight end week. And also just because the chat's talking about it, a lot of people asking about Aaron Rodgers because there's a video that went around of him like flexing his hand and he went through all his normal drills. There's no expectation for him to be different. If you were playing a lot of him and you want to get less, you can, but he seems like he's fine.
It would always make me happy if Aaron Rodgers sucked. Skull, everybody. That's what I feel about that. Anything else at tight end for you as we talk about defense for 2.8 seconds?
No, I mean, I think we covered pretty much everybody. I like paying up if you can, but obviously on this slate, that might not be easy to do.
The Broncos defense, the Giants defense, the Raiders defense. We're getting different price ranges, but I got to throw out my favorite defense for tournaments. It's got to be the Rams, right? We keep talking about Shuck, and I mean, I'm talking about Juwan Johnson as a tournament option. That game has massive range of outcomes as far as what the Rams defense puts up, but most of those exist on the right tail, whereas normally you're talking about the left tail, a team getting lit up and that they don't end up putting up any kind of big plays. But I like Kellen Moore as a play caller. I think he's going to turn the Saints team around in like 3-4 years once they finally have money to be able to do things. But God, it's hard not to pull the trigger against a 26-year-old quarterback getting his first career start.
Yeah, I agree. The Rams defense seemed like a fun one to play. I mean, sim-wise, nothing separating really. Broncos and Giants coming up the most. But the Rams are one that I know I put in a few of the hand-built lineups I put in and simmed out to make sure they were okay. So I like them too. Again, Shuck, really inaccurate QB so far. Hasn't played a bunch, but only a 75% catchable ball rate. You would be talking about the worst QB on the slate in the small sample size. And, I think that going against the Rams, a defense that's been pretty solid overall, the kind of spot where I think a really good defense would make it thing where you want to really go out of your way to get them against Shuck, at least on paper to me. The Rams, I think, still a pretty good spot that I want to be there. But yeah, Broncos look the best. I'm not sold on that. I think it's really a get whatever defense you get. Like I played some Panthers at the dead minimum. I played Falcons. Yeah.
I think that's a great shout for what it's worth. Like 2K, if the wind is actually pretty bad. Josh Jacobs has been dinged up to a certain extent. I know that he's fine and not on the injury report for this week. Doesn't have an injury designation, but you can't tell me that his calf isn't still bothering him based on what I've seen, like more red zone usage. We've seen Emmanuel Wilson mixing in. Do you have any kind of like a feel about that specifically? Because like 2K flat, I have been playing some Carolina in builds this week.
I think Carolina is an interesting team. I mean, we've seen Green Bay play down to competition enough times, and Carolina's total is like, it's so bad. But, like Jordan Love, people are going to go like, it's his birthday. Maybe, I don't know, maybe he went out hard in Green Bay for his birthday. But I just think they're 2K, and like all it takes is Jordan Love messing up in game. Like he has enough this year. He takes deep shots a little recklessly sometimes, and that's enough for me. But like what they open up, if you get the lineup right around them, it's just worth taking the shot and hoping that even though the Vegas total definitely does not support playing a Panthers D or something like that.
You have 1 minute. 1 minute remaining in the period. 1 minute, 30% off, promo code RICH down at the video description box below. If you've been thinking about it, pull the trigger. Take advantage of it, because I guarantee you the best data in the industry, the best opportunities for you to win big money in DFS here with the Sims tool. Check it out. Promo code RICH. You still got time. You can get it done. All right, Spags. Who's going to win us all the money today? Favorite tournament stack?
Caleb Odunze. Hopefully Odunze stays low owned, paired up with Manungai and Chase.
Yeah. Caleb Goff for me. Amon-Ra puts up more than Jamar Chase. That would be very useful for me. Also, make my suffering as a Vikings fan feel a little bit better. Favorite fade? Who are you fading the most on today's slate?
I mean, I'm with the field and the expected ownership, so like it's not really a fade, but mentally, I don't like Tyrone Tracy, and I hope he fails.
Yep, I'm hoping the Giants fail outside of cash, where I just need them to put up like middle of the road performances for Jackson Dart and Theo Johnson. But do not want to see 28 from Jackson Dart and 20 from Theo Johnson. This I can tell you. And let's see. Anything else that you wanted to throw out for the people? Because I'm Eric Lindquist. You can follow me at Eric Lindquist. He's Chris Spags at Chris Spags. If you haven't checked out Splash Play, you're doing yourself a big disservice, because NBA streets, NFL streets, Chris Spags has you covered. Tell him where to find you.
Check out my channel for NFL at Splash Play Pod. You can also find my NBA videos on there, where I go live Monday to Friday at 2 p.m. every day. So if you want to get some more NBA takes from me, please feel free to check that out. But appreciate all you guys who have moved over there. We've been hearing from a lot of Stokastic people checking it out. So that goes a long way. And I also would love to take a moment here to thank all the South Dakota high school basketball fans for rewarding me for all my achievements. I was getting buckets. I was crossing them over left and right. That's what Puppet Linguist does. The dog doesn't like Puppet Linguist. What are you freaking out about? So I'm getting stop stiffing my butt, kitty. Either way, I just want to thank all the people at South, all 10 other basketball players in the state for giving me this great honor. Thank you. Mwah, mwah.
I'm hitting end stream. Bye. Good luck. Week 9. Woo.